Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto x Summer x Lisa Lavender x Elm? Part 1. Huge shout out to NeonZangetsu for this story. If you want more awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. A young man approached a Beowulf in the dead of night. At least, he assumed it was a Beowulf. It certainly looked odd enough. He'd spent the last week tracking it. By now the hour was late and the moon was full, shining down in all its shattered splendor. He knew the beast saw him, just as he saw it. He'd gone out of his way to corner it. His pace did not slow. Any observer would have thought him foolish at best, suicidal at worst. Why else would a stranger willingly seek out a creature of the grim in the dead of night? Surely only a fool would do such a thing. A fool indeed, or a madman. Perhaps he was. For the time had come to test his theory. There could be no gain without risk, nor risk without gain. Beneath the tattered rags of his well-worn cowl, whiskered cheeks dimpled in an anxious scowl. He didn't think he was mad. Just left without much choice. Worst case scenario, he died here tonight. They could only kill him once after all. Perhaps that was a morbid way of thinking things. He knew of no other way to be. No one would miss him in any case. None would mourn him. He was in every way an outcast. A pariah. If he were to die here and now, all his accomplishments would come to naught, his grand plan to save the world destined to die a stillbirth before it could ever be born. His mentor was long since dead. No one else would care about the death of some stray in Vale. They will call you mad for this, Naruto. A memory took him in its teeth and shook him from head to toe. They will not understand. Knowing that, are you still prepared to take on this burden? I am. I want to help people. This can save thousands. Millions of people. Of course, my boy. Of course. You're the perfect vessel. He hadn't backed down then, and he wouldn't back down now. Someone needed to turn the tables. Had to be him. Someone else might have gotten it wrong. By the sage, that was a very large Grimm. Easily 10 feet tall on all fours, the Alpha could crush him with one paw. He knew it. The beast knew it. He could fight if it came to that. He wasn't anywhere near as powerless as he appeared, but he didn't favor his chances against a beast of this size, not at this range. Knowing this, the young man still extended his hand. Hey there, big guy. He grinned at the beast. Wanna be friends? A tumbleweed blew past man and beast, vanishing in the undergrowth. As if on cue, the Grimm threw its head back and howled. It was a surprisingly sharp sound, a keening contralto against the silent night. Oops. His smile became a touch more stressed. You're a girl, are you? Sorry about that. He laughed and rubbed the back of his head with one hand. Didn't mean to offend ya. Hackles rose as the beast tensed, ready to pounce. Something in the young man quailed at the sight. He grit his teeth and stood his ground, palms still splayed. The Grimm crept closer. Slavering jaws parted, exposing row upon row of serrated, knife-like teeth. One bite. That was all it would take. A single bite would take his arm and the shoulder besides. He'd be dead before he hit the ground. A whimper nearly stole out of him, but he took hold of it, wrestling it down before it could escape him. And yet still the young man found himself hesitant. This was his calling. His purpose. He knew this. Every fiber of his being called him to do so. Yet fear wasn't so easily quashed. Was this a Beowulf at all? Up close, it didn't look like one. He was beginning to think it was a breed he'd not encountered as of yet. That boded poorly. Anxiety stirred deep inside him, drawing a growl from the horrifying abomination before him. Don't panic. He willed the words at himself, locking his fear in a box and burying it deep. Panic leads to fear. Fear is the enemy. No fear here. The Alpha sniffed his palm. Once. Twice. Thrice. A spark of intelligence flashed through the red slits of its mask. He reached out with the gift this world had granted him and breathed on it, fanning that tiny ember into a flame. Faint tendrils of light sprang from his palm, wrapping around the Grimm like strands of silk. It stiffened, but he pushed outward with his power to pacify it. Calm. He breathed the word, chanting it like a mantra. Keep calm. He knew the moment his power took root, because the Grimm's fur, once black as pitch, burned a bright shade of deeply luminescent gold. It jerked back with a rough snort of surprise, red eyes wide beneath its mask. A snarl tore through the night, and Naruto felt its shock, as clearly as if it were his own. Of course he did. He'd linked himself to the Grimm. Steady. He forced the words out through gritted teeth. Steady now. I'm not going to hurt you. Just be Siak? A rough tongue flitted out and scraped across his face, rendering his silver tongue an incoherent mess. Naruto did his best not to gag. His right eye twitched. Good girl. Would you kindly sit? Much to his surprise, the beast made a chuffing sound and plunked down on its hindquarters, rather reminding him of a hound. Well, a giant hound that could take him and shake him apart with its teeth. Irk. Now he was nervous again. Still, it made no move to attack. He'd tamed it. Just like the rest. With that, Naruto released a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. His shoulders slumped, and against his better judgment, he dared to reach out and scratch the beast's ears. A mighty leg thumped upon the floor as its tongue lolled forth from that fang maw. Slowly, a tentative smile dawned on his whiskered visage. Well, hot damn. That actually worked. Now what am I going to do with you? The Golden Grimm, he was starting to think of it as a hound, merely beeped its head at him. He hadn't been sure he could successfully influence the higher breeds of Grimm. Until tonight. Alright then. His theory was proven. His ability extended to greater Grimm as well as the lesser breeds. That was certainly a step up from what it had been in the beginning. Oh, if only Merlot could see him now. He'd be howling with laughter. His semblance was a strange one. Sometimes he wondered if it was really a semblance to begin with. Anyone who could commune with Grimm, much less influence them, make them more than they were, well, it had to be a curse. His parents in this life certainly called it such. Was it a curse? A blessing? Some unholy influence, perhaps? He wasn't sure. He had been reborn into this world without aura to protect him, yet he still possessed this strange ability. His soul would always be within, never without. These creatures could and would kill him if he let them. Grimm had sought him for as long as he could remember, attracted him wherever he went. He wasn't sure what it was that drew them to him, only that it did. By the time he realized he was a target. Well, things hadn't gone well. Mountain Glen was heralded as a disaster for good reason. That day, he'd lost the one man who gave a damn about him. After his mentor's death, he'd eked out a meager existence in the wilds, away from the cities, away from civilization, away from everyone. Still, they were drawn to him. And in a strange, twisted way, Naruto found himself drawn was unto them. They could be reasoned with, persuaded not to attack, even outright dominated when all else failed. Naruto didn't enjoy the latter, but sometimes it was necessary. Grimm were always dangerous when they were mindless, as this one had been. Give them intelligence, the ability to think and reason, to exist as more than mindless monsters? Well, remarkable things happened. Tame enough Grimm, and they might well leave people alone. Some might call it a pipe dream. Perhaps it was. But he'd been given this ability for a reason. Surely he was meant to use it for the greater good. In truth, these beasts were not the mindless monsters man feared them to be. After all, if they were, he would have been long dead by now. If they could learn to act as normal creatures did, if they could be taught, if he was able to find the one directing them if. So many ifs. Naruto pinched the bridge of his nose and sighed. Enough for one night. His reserves were flagging. All right. He patted the hound on its strange mask. I guess we should get back. Really, you're the first greater Grimm I managed to Bone gave way with an awful crack as the hound howled in untold agony. Naruto jerked back, terribly startled by this unexplained phenomena. What in the world? Something latched onto his reserve and yanked. Yanked really, really, really hard. He dropped to a knee, gasping for air. Golden light burst from the beast, shining flooded the clearing, bringing with it a rush of pressure. The young man flung up an arm against it, wincing as his cowl was torn back. Bright blue eyes squinted against the haze, framed by tan whiskered cheeks and tawny blonde hair. He kept squinting until a hunched shape resolved itself amidst the gloom. He stopped squinting when he saw pale skin. Naked! Cheeks aflame, he ripped his battered cloak from his shoulders and cast it over the woman in a desperate attempt to preserve her modesty. For this was undoubtedly one of the fairer sex. When the mist cleared, a human face stared back at him. No, not quite human, but certainly not faunus either. Framed by the ruined remnants of a broken mask around her startled visage, baffled eyes blinked back at him. Her hair was dark, yet a strange shade of red. Darker than dark even. Like someone had reached up and cut out a piece of the bloody night itself, and wounded into those tresses of hers. Startled silver eyes blinked up at him from a gaunt face that looked like it hadn't seen the sun in years. Naruto recoiled. A person? Inside a Grimm? What was the world coming to? Who are you? A hoarse whispers fled from her lips. Myrrh. He frowned. Didn't quite catch that. She didn't seem to hear him. Instead, the woman raised her hands, then frowned when she realized they were no longer paws. Fingers stood in place of claws, flexing into loose fists as he looked on. An expression of pure wonder crossed her pale visage as she turned them end over end. Her lips worked wordlessly, either unable or unwilling to speak. By some miracle, she didn't try to remove the cloak he'd thrown over her. Trembling hands clutched it close to her naked body, trembling from the cold. Naruto plucked the canteen from his belt and offered it to her. Here. Maybe this will help. That got her attention. She all but snatched it from his hands and drank greedily. Thank you. When she finally spoke again, her voice sounded stronger for pure water he'd given her. You saved me. Saved? He scratched the back of his head. I didn't even know you were in that grimace? Silver eyes gazed up at him, brimming with unshed tears. As he looked on aghast, the woman began to weep. A strange heat pervaded Naruto's face and he looked away, feeling terribly embarrassed by the sight. When was the last time someone had thanked him? He couldn't remember. Really? It hadn't been that long, surely. He liked helping people. And yet he couldn't remember the last time he'd gone out of his way to actively help someone. Maybe it was time that changed. She tried to stand and stumbled, forcing him to catch her. As Summer. The woman croaked, clutching at his sleeve for support as she stood on unsteady legs. My name is Summer. Yes. That's it. There was something else, wasn't there? She swallowed and touched a hand to her forehead, grappling with a memory. I had a mission, but I can't remember. Something in him winced. He said the only thing he could. Did you have a family? It was the pebble that started an avalanche. Realization flashed through her startling silver eyes. Family. The word burst from Summer's lips and she latched onto him like a limpet, fingernails biting into his arms. That's right. I have a family. Please help me. She glanced left and right, as though fearing an attack at any moment. Take me home. Don't let her take me again. Her? Salem. She babbled the words and clutched at her head. She took me. Her eyes went wild, flashing with fear and something else he couldn't understand. She did things to me, don't want to go back. She shook her head anew, sending her hair swaying in a mess tangle. Take the girl, she sighed. No. No, no, no. A keening whimper forced itself through clenched teeth. I won't take the girl. I won't give her Ruby. She can't make me. His brow furrowed. Who in blazes is Salem? Summer gazed up at him, suddenly eerily calm. She's the end. The end of everything. Queen of the Grimm. Her eyes rolled back into her head without warning and she slumped in his arms, forcing him to catch her lest she dash her head against a stone. Summer offered no resistance whatsoever. Were it not for the faint pulse in her neck, he would have thought her dead. She was certainly cold enough. A bitter breeze swept through the clearing and Naruto fought down a shiver. There was so much he wanted to ask her, but he'd get no answers from her like this. Grimm weren't people, were they? Was someone turning humans into Grimm? Another part of him wanted to throw his head back and laugh. Laugh long and hard. Finally. He'd studied for so long. Delved into the depths of Mountain Glen. Torn through Merlot's research. They said it was impossible. That it couldn't be done. Yet here at last he had his validation, his proof, and most of all, the beginning of his redemption. But with it all, he had an aim. Salem, Queen of the Grimm. Oh dear. That complicated things. He knew someone had been directing the Grimm themselves for quite some time now. The attacks certainly indicated as much, but he'd thought it a stray huntress with an ability similar to his. Not a bloody queen that wanted to end life as he knew it. If she was doing this to people, then that made her an enemy. She stood directly opposed to his own goals for these Grimm. If anything, she was likely commanding the lot of them. That wouldn't do. With this simple choice, the world began to change once more. He wouldn't be alone anymore. Never again. He'd already swore to save this wretched, rotten world, one way or another. And he would. Even if he had to drag it to glory, kicking and screaming. But in the meantime, guess I'll bring her back to her family. Seems the right thing to do. What could possibly go wrong? Naruto found the journey to patch a long one. But the flock of Nevermore that stalked them from the skies, he wouldn't call those tame. In hindsight, few of the birds were bold enough to approach him outright, yet the fact remained that they followed him nonetheless. He cast a wary blue eye at the dark cloud on the horizon, wondering if the swarm would swoop down upon him. Swooping was bad. This lot had proven themselves more curious than dangerous thus far, but tame? No. Never tame. Grimm were not beasts of burden. One couldn't simply clamp a collar on a creature of Grimm and expect it to obey. They had to be taught. They had to learn. And make no mistake, they could learn. They just needed a chance. More often than not, it fell to him to confront them, convert them, and then set them free. A curious trill beneath him reminded him where he was, namely, the giant freaking Nevermore he was currently riding across the ocean. Yeah? He sighed and absently stroked at its feathers. I appreciate the lift. Just don't get yourself shot down. I don't know how to swim. Summer's still out cold, too. An intent red iris regarded him, then swung back. He patted its head once for good measure. I really do appreciate this. Thanks to his gift, he'd managed to convince the creature to ferry him and Summer to her home. Still, he dare not reach out and make it his own. Not yet. Not completely. Fear held him back. What if there was a person inside it? That, too, sounded absurd, but he had no way of knowing now. All he thought he had known was thrown into disarray. As though summoned by that very thought, one of the smaller Nevermore swooped down. Really, guys? He stifled a jaw-popping yawn as one of its smaller brethren landed on his shoulder. I'm not a scarecrow. Shoo. Rather than respond, it began to preen itself. Cheeky bird. This was why he eschewed civilization. This was why he had ever stayed to the wilds. This was why he'd avoided forming bonds with others until now. By some miracle, Summer spent most of the trip asleep, too spent from her ordeal to put up any meaningful resistance. She'd only woken once to tell him where she lived. Patch. Nothing more. He'd had to learn the rest on his own. Supposedly, it was a tiny little island off the coast of Vale, home to Signal, a prep school for Beacon. Heck of a place to live. He stole a glance down at her now, considering the woman he'd rescued. Restored though she might be, Summer wasn't entirely human. Even now he could still see the fragments of her mask fused to the right side of her face, molded there like a second skin. They couldn't be removed. He'd tried. She'd whimpered in her sleep, and he dare not make a third attempt for fear of waking her. Perhaps that was for the best. Summer Rose would have been terribly startled when he'd stopped to ask directions from that Geist, even more so if she realized she'd been sleeping among the plumage of this giant Nevermore. Many would have balked at riding on the back of such a fowl. To him, it was second nature. Really, Grimm were quite nice when you stopped to talk with them. So long as you didn't show fear, they would let you be. Or perhaps that was the innate nature of his semblance at work. Who could say? Atop his shoulder, the smaller Nevermore ruffled its feathers and shot away with a startled caw. Huh. Naruto blinked, drawn from his reverie. That's weird. Wonder what spooked it. On a whim, he turned his gaze upon the ocean. Something looked back. Glowing eyes regarded him within the ocean waves, large and intent. Something massive shifted just below the surface, its long serpentine bulk barely in the muggy morning mist. His heart skipped a beat. Bugger. That was a sea Phylong, wasn't it? Had to be. He'd done his reading. He didn't think his semblance was strong enough to handle one of those yet. Leaning back, he had his mount a subtle nudge, urging the Nevermore to fly just a bit faster, a bit higher. The sea monster kept pace with them effortlessly. No. Naruto took his thumb between his teeth. Not now. Even now he could feel the beast's presence burning in the back of his brain, like a clarion call unto itself. Its mind brushed against his, considering him intently. No doubt it saw him as a threat, an intruder in its territory, a pest to be exterminated. If it reared up out of the water and took flight, no, he didn't want to consider that. The moment it did, he'd be in a world of trouble. Sensing his distress, the Nevermore beat its wings anew in a frantic attempt to gain altitude. Gloarg! Below them, the beast's body broke the water with frightful speed, blocking them with its bulk. Naruto reared back in his Nevermore with him, nearly spilling Summer's sleeping from her crudely made saddle. She'd be cross with him later. If there was a later. Later didn't look very likely right now. Oh geez. Bastard was bigger than he thought. Naruto hissed out a breath, mind whirling for a solution, but none came. He could dominate a Grimm in a pinch if worse came to worst, though that often proved a battle of wills. His against theirs. Doing so left him more drained than he cared to admit, and he wasn't sure he could survive the attempt here. So he didn't even try. Instead, he stretched his semblance out like a net, weaving it over the Grimm's will in a light thread he prayed it wouldn't notice. Its nostrils flared in surprise. Blast it! Easy now. He soothed, raising a hand. I'm not your enemy? A warbling growl escaped the beast's fanged maw, and it was all he could do not to gag. Ugh. Bad breath. Horrible breath. This close, he could count all of its teeth. Even the smallest was twice his size. It could devour him in a singe bite, and his mouth with it. No weapon he possessed would be able to kill it quickly enough. And if he hit the water. He pushed just a little harder. Look, buddy. We're just passing through. Go back to sleep, would ya? Sparks seethed between its jaws. Naruto gulped. Please? I really don't want to drown. There had to be land somewhere nearby. There just had to be. Another push, firmer than the last. His skull screamed in pain. A line of blood ran down his nose, but the creature before him responded. Slowly, almost reluctantly, those glowing eyes began to close. Phew. He exhaled in a shuddering breath and wiped a bead of sweat from his brow. Close call. The tail came out of nowhere, striking hard and fast. Naruto didn't even have time to gasp. His world went black. The balance had shifted. Salem felt it in her bones, Her heart of hears, in her very soul, somewhere, someone, somehow, she had been challenged. Her pale flesh itched most uncomfortably, leaving her restless upon her throne. She'd felt the link connecting her to the Grimm waver most unpleasantly, as if someone had thrown a pail of cold water over her. Even now her right arm twitched, aching to find the source and read it apart. So too had she seen the source through the eyes of her children, seen the face of the one responsible for this most heinous crime. Such a fool. Steal the Grimm out from under would they? Impudent pup. Whomever they were, they would drown in their own blood for this. Or perhaps? Murder was final. Death was the end for the other creatures of Remnant. Yes, the more she thought on it, the more she realized just how much of an opportunity this was. Why discard someone with such a useful skill set? It seemed such a waste to remove a being who may well be able to further enhance her Grimm. She smiled softly. Tyrion, I have need of you. The faintest shuffling of shoes behind her stone throne answered her. Yes, my lady? There is someone I wish for you to find. He must be dealt with. She snapped her fingers. Take what's with you and see to it at once. Find him. But of course. A merry giggle greeted her as the faunus rubbed his hands together. And then? You will bring him to me. Alive. Her minion sulked but a little. As you command? My head. Summer woke fitfully. Sharp pain stabbed through his skull, sharp and cloying with sand. Why was there sand in her mouth? She wrinkled her nose and spat it out, trying to rid herself of the salty taste. Propping herself up on her elbows, she dared to take a glance for her surroundings, only for her arms to fail her. Water lapped at her face, and she sputtered upright. Bleary silver eyes blinked up the afternoon sun. Believable. Someone was growling just out of sight. Where the hell are we? No, I know you don't know, but still. The faint cry of a bird broke through her thoughts. For a terrifying moment, she thought she saw a giant nevermore. It trilled once, a sad, forlorn sound as someone bound its ruined wing with white cloth. No, it's fine. The man muttered to it. I'll call for you when I need you. Be safe. Go on. Get out of here. Come back when you're healed. With a triumphant scream, something crashed into the trees just ahead, leaving a lone dark feather to flutter onto the ground. It was too much for her fragile psyche. She blacked out again a moment later, only to wake just as quickly and find her savior standing over her. Hey, his familiar voice plucked at her ears. You're finally awake. Come on. Wake up. She didn't want to. She wanted to sleep, to forget, to pretend all this awful nonsense was just that, a fever dream. But she couldn't. Her dreams had been dark indeed, equal parts nightmare and terror alike. They say the worst nightmares are often true. This one certainly felt like it. Naruto, right? She vaguely recalled him speaking to her some time ago. That's your name, isn't it? His head bobbed. Good, you remembered. It was touch and go for a bit there. Where are we? An island, I think. He scratched his chin with a clawed finger. Might be Patch. Might not. We washed up here after a sea Phylong attack. Blue eyes dimpled in a smile. You didn't exactly give me an address. Her mind whirled. I thought I saw a Grimm. He winced a little at that one. Must have been dreaming. Right, of course. A nervous titter escaped her lips. Must have. People didn't talk to Grimm. Her mind gibbered at the thought, bent, but not quite broken. It just wasn't done. She was being silly. Maybe she really had hit her head. Yes, surely this was just that, little more than a fever dream as she recovered. To even consider otherwise threatened to undo her entirely, and wait. Something was moving on his arm. A bug? No, not a bug. What's that on your shoulder? This? For a moment she thought he'd lied to her. Evidently he thought better of it. No point in hiding it, I guess. Just a Geist. He shrugged. He's harmless. The specter waved at her with a clawed forelimb as if to say hello. Waved. At her. Summer blinked. Once. Twice. Thrice. Fear asserted itself with a vengeance. Grimm. Her eyes went wide and she kicked out with her legs, launching herself backward. At least, that was her intent. She failed horribly. What followed was little more than a stumbling lurch that sent her crashing down to her hands and knees like a clumsy child. No attack followed. No aggressive moves were made. The Grimm and its master just stared at her as if she were the odd one out. Her savior quirked a brow. Was that really necessary? I already told you he's harmless like this. Yes. Yes, it was. Have you lost your mind? There's no such thing as a good Grimm. They're all evil. I prefer the term misunderstood. The young man huffed. Lunatic. Careful, now. His eyes narrowed when she kicked at him again. This lunatic made you human again. Be nice. Summer's teeth came together in an audible click. He had her there. She squinted at the Grimm anew. It's really harmless? I'm not trying to control them. He lifted his arm, allowing the Geist to drift around it in a harmless swirl of smoke. I just want to unlock their true potential. When he realized she was staring, he wrenched his gaze down and to the right. Pretty sure I've already done that for you. Unless you don't approve? She misunderstood him and cringed away. You'd change me back? Her mind recoiled at the thought. Cold, lonely, swimming in shadow. Guts gripping in the dark, take the girl, take the girl, take the girl. Why did you even think no? Of course I can't do that. Naruto's sharp snarl slashed through her thoughts, mercifully sparing her the trauma of what she'd endured. Whatever you are now, you're stuck that way. At the end of the day, you're you. His hand slashed through the air, further drilling his point home. You won't be that monster again. Never again. The heat of his words caught up with him again, and he coughed once into a fist. I mean, well, you know. Summer rocked back on her weak legs with a frown. For all her fears and trauma, her body felt light. She felt strong. Powerful. Agile. Was that a good thing? There was still a presence in the back of her mind, a dark shadow that squirmed if she stared overlong at it. She flinched anew and shoved it away with a shudder. Ashbin needs to be told. Naruto shrugged. Don't know anyone by that name. Had he been living under a rock or something? No. Never mind that. If you can really do what you claim, he'll protect you. He can't. Those sharp eyes narrowed upon her. No one can. I'm a magnet for Grimm. A living beacon. They're drawn to me as much as I am them. His brow furrowed and he looked away, considering something. When it freed you, you mentioned someone. Who is Salem? That's easy. She's queen of the Grimm Endo. Realization dawned a heartbeat later. Oh, that's bad. Very. Blue eyes rolled in mild derision. If she's anything like what I think she is, she won't take kindly to my meddling. Then you should stop. Could you? He turned a pitying look upon her. If you knew you could change the world, make it better, wouldn't you? Or would you run and hide? Summer flinched anew. In that alone, he was right. Should Salem ever learn of his existence? Well, death would be the least of Naruto's worries. Speaking of which, an awful thought occurred to her. She'd been gone for so long. Her face felt funny. Stiff. Heavy. She could see with both eyes, but one of them felt hot. She had to see. She wanted to see. She needed to see. A seed of fear bloomed in her heart. Do you, she swallowed once, have a mirror? Here. Naruto handed her a knife, polished to perfection. It wasn't difficult to find her reflection within, though she soon wished she hadn't. She touched a hand to her cheek and flinched when she found white bone there. Not as whole as it had been when she'd been that thing, but present nonetheless. Her hands trembled despite her best efforts, her mind struggling to comprehend the horror she saw before her. That was undoubtedly her face. It had to be. It must be. And yet it was all wrong. Summer Rose saw her pale visage and the veins there. She whimpered softly. My face, what did you do to me? I saved you. When she looked to him, he sounded so sure. So earnest. I didn't even know you were in that Grimm when I freed it. Apparently it's not a seamless process. Clearly not. Things changed. I'm sorry. You're still healing, and I don't know what to do about your arm, but I'm sure the scars will heal and at least you're alive. Summer never gave him the chance to finish. Her head slammed into his chest, driving the words out of him. Fist, she began to weep. Then she wailed. Alive. She was alive. Scars didn't matter. This mask didn't matter. None of it mattered. Here at last in her right mind, her emotions overwhelmed her completely. She was helpless as a newborn. She couldn't think. Couldn't move. Could barely even breathe. Words bubbled up in her, fear broke through her soul and had its day. In the end, she uttered 2 words over and over again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Lisa Lavender knew a story when she saw one. As an up-and-coming journalist, she could sniff out news like no other. Some said it ran in her family's blood, a byproduct of a bygone age. Something about psychics or some such. Others called her semblance. Still more wondered if it was just bloody bad luck. Whenever there was a story to be told, she was never far. The truth was decidedly less impressive than most people thought. It wasn't a gift, a curse, or even a semblance. She simply had a nose for these sort of things. She lived for news. No price was too high, no risk too great. For the thrill of breaking a story, exposing scandal, corruption, greed, she would risk anything. Cracking cases wide open, solving mysteries, hard-biting tales that got your blood pumping. That sort of thing. Did that make her a bad person? She didn't think so. She broke the news equally, much to the chagrin or ally and enemy alike. Good or bad? Didn't matter. If there was a story to be told, she would tell it. She wasn't biased. She was fair. As far as Lisa Lavender was concerned, her semblance was a pain in the ass, downright useless, really. She didn't even want to think about it. Honestly, the brothers were probably laughing at her. But this was news. A man crash lands in Evermore in Patch? Decent story. Not worth it. Huntsman pulled that shtick all the time, all over the world. Yet when said man talks to said Grimm? Better news. The people loved reading about madmen. Better payday too. When said Grimm responds to his commands? Now that was a bloody headline right there. At a glance it seemed like some old fishwife's tale, and she'd thought as much before she'd spoken to her witness. He was reliable. Even if he wasn't, his footage spoke for itself. A fisherman had seen 2 people come crashing down onto Patch. A man and a woman both, one of whom didn't look quite human. People didn't ride Grimm. The scroll footage was shaky at best, grainy at worst when set to maximum zoom, but the sight of it warmed her blood in a way few things did. Because from that footage, she could see a face. Fishing a scroll out of her purse, Lisa dialed an old number and set it to her ear. Hey Tom. It's me. I need a favor. She grimaced as an annoyed voice squawked through. Yeah, I know it'll cost me. You got an eyes on Patch? Another rumble came through. You do? Great. I'll pay you the usual rate. There's somebody I gotta find. Tall chap, blonde hair and blue eyes. Whiskered cheeks. Can't miss him. The reply had her pale face flushing. No, this isn't another wild goose chase. Find him by the end of the day, let me know where he is, and I'll pay double. Information and lean were exchanged, and the scroll went silent against her ear. There. The deed was done. Just as quickly, Lisa called the photo back up again. Keen azure orbs glared back at her. Wild. Angry. Like he was looking right at the camera, staring into her very soul. She shivered a little. Dangerous men always had the best stories to tell. Interviews with them were always the best. Who are you? She wondered aloud. What are your secrets? The photo held no answers for her. It only whetted her appetite. Someone who could control the Grimm. There had to be some trick to it. Even if there wasn't, this was more than a story. This was news. And she wouldn't rest until she got to the bottom of it. Secrets were like a vault, really. Sometimes you just needed the right combination. Or you could crack it open with high explosives. Whatever worked. Regardless, she wanted a word with this young man. In hindsight, Lisa Lavender had no idea what her actions would unleash. How could she? She was just a journalist. But she would learn. She would learn. Summer was antsy, as expected. Of course she was antsy, the poor thing. After what she'd been through, well, it was a miracle she was still sane. Or was she? Naruto winced when she nearly bumped into someone for what felt like the umpteenth time. She didn't even stagger, lost in her own world as she was. It was a testament to her new strength as a hybrid that she didn't break her stride. Not so the burly male she'd collided with. Poor bastard all but crashed into a wall and spilled his ale everywhere. Hey! The faunus raised a tan fist after her. Watch where you're going. I have half a mind to. Here. Naruto darted ahead and pressed a bit of lean into his hand. For your troubles. She's in mourning. It wasn't the truth by any means, but it confused the poor fellow to back down long enough for them to make their escape. Even with her hood up, Summer all but power walked her way through the market. Forging a brisk pace, Naruto found himself forced to match lest he be left behind. Her rudeness wasn't even intentional on her part. She was that wrapped up in her own thoughts. More than once she all but knocked someone off her feet, forcing him to intervene time again. Although she was ever careful to keep her head down lest anyone recognize her, more than a few shot her nasty looks. Thankfully no one challenged her outright. Thank the sage for small mercies. She didn't stop to engage with anyone. Neither did he, though he almost wished she would, if only so. Calm down, he hissed when he reached her side. You're making a scene. I am calm. She forced the words through a smile so tight her face clenched. See how calm I am? I'm smiling. Summer. Her gaze tore away from his. Just leave it, Naruto. He yanked her back before she could bolt. Not a chance. Talk to me. I can feel her inside me. Whispering. She shivered a little and clutched at her left arm. The bandaged one. It's like an echo. An afterthought? Her lips pursed. I don't know. I can't tell if she's really there or not. Fretful eyes turned up to him, and he was startled to find that one, her left, had become a startling red-black. I'm scared. As she spoke, that eerie iris began to bleed, weeping dark tears like ink. I won't want to turn back into that thing. You won't. But what if I do? She warbled. Blue eyes narrowed. You won't. You're something different now. She grabbed at his sleeve. What am I, then? You're supposed to be the expert on this. Naruto blanched. He really wasn't. Summer was an anomaly, someone he'd not expected to find. And yet he had. Just how many people had Salem put inside Grimm? A handful? Dozens? Hundreds? More? Did it only apply to silver-eyed warriors? Or was there something darker at work? He didn't know. And it terrified him. In the end, he settled for a shrug and the truth. You're something new. Is that why my arm changed all of a sudden? She gripped at the black lesions that had grown across her left limb. In the time it had taken them to find civilization, Her fingers had sprouted claws, while the flesh of her skin there had turned a pitch black. It still looked human, but his senses said otherwise. He wanted to lie to her, yet he couldn't. I don't know. I wish I did, but wishing doesn't help. She tore free and buelled ahead of him, Naruto at a more sedate pace, let her lead him on, allowed her to guide him. First through the town square, down a dirt road, then off the beaten path entirely. Through bramble and thicket she walked, unwilling to so much as speak a word to him. Perhaps that was his fault. This was a lot to take in even without the revelations he'd given her. Was she trapped like this? Was there some way to tear off her grim parts safely? He didn't think so. Not without killing her. Sensing his stress, something stirred. A small golden geist, the one he'd converted on the beach, popped out from one of the many pouches he kept on his vest. Its lone eye craned towards Summer's retreating form, then back to him. Now back to Summer again. Tiny shoulders shrugged helplessly as it made a hissing sound. I hear ya, little buddy. Naruto patted its mask with a finger. Girls are a mystery. Don't think I'll ever understand them. Stop talking to that thing and keep up, Summer shouted back at him. We're nearly there. Naruto ducked through a thorn brush, grumbling only a little as it caught at his coat. You heard her. Back and you go. Can't have anyone else seeing you. The geist saluted and dove back into its pouch. Really, it was a mercy when they finally arrived at their destination. It was a nice little house. More a cottage, all things considered. Downright homey. Seeing it made his heart ache with envy, if only because it reminded him of what he could never have. Something ugly reared its head in his heart. This wasn't fair. With a snarl he stomped it down until it stopped moving. Everyone had a place in this world. What right did he have to envy a happy little family? He found Summer only a few paces ahead, knees twisting anxiously as she gazed upon her home. She stole a glance back at him, eyes wide. It changed my mind. I can't do this. Naruto saw her legs and knew she was about to flee. Fortunately for her, he'd prepared for just such an eventuality. No, you don't. He reached around and caught her by the hem of her cloak, stopping her charge short. A quick tug yanked her back into his arms. She went absolutely berserk, thrashing and hissing and spitting like a cat thrust into cold water. No! Her voice warbled as she thrashed in his grasp. Let me go! I'm a monster! They won't even recognize me! He grit his teeth as her head crashed into his chin. You're not a monster! Yes, I am, she wailed. I'm not even human anymore. You're human to me. Summer stilled in his arms and looked up at him with silver eyes. Both of them. Whatever had affected her left eye appeared to have faded. Was it a result of stress then? Did her grim features react to anxiety? Merlot would have found it all fascinating. He would have had answers, at least. Without his mentor, he was left to fumble in the dark. He didn't know what to say. What to do. He could only go with his gut. You wanted this. He hummed in her ear. This is your moment. Not mine. Get out there and claim your happiness. You deserve it. Yanking her hood back, he frog-marched her up the porch steps, heart hammering in his chest. It was here that Summer's resolve faltered again, and her nerves got the better of her. For an awful moment she looked like a frightened girl, not knowing what to say or do. What if they don't recognize me? Oh, for the love of... Naruto stepped up and slammed his clenched fist against the door. 9 times in rapid succession, one after the other. With each blow the frame jumped on its hinges to rattle the very house. It was impossible to ignore, and he knew it. Summer rounded on him with a loud yelp. Why? She cried. He shrugged. Why not? It was the proverbial pebble that started an avalanche. A cry of alarm went up inside the house, soon echoed by another. And another. Another still. Summer wasn't rightly sure who was in there, but it sounded like a stampede. Naruto hopped off the porch and left her to the mercy of the horde. Summer's nerves, already wound tighter than a tightly coiled spring, finally snapped. She spun, eyes alight. "Why, you little?" Naruto stepped back. And all bloody hell broke loose. The front door slammed open, smacking Summer in the spine. She whirled with a hiss and looked down, terribly startled. A pair of startled silver orbs gazed back. Looking at those eyes hurt, but in a good way. She couldn't explain why. It felt like her grim instincts were being tamped down just by being in her presence. Then her brain caught up with her eyes. Oh. Oh, wow. Ruby had grown up. Gone was the little lass she remembered. She looked to be closer to 12 now. Maybe 13 at a stretch. Her eyes watered at the sight and something in her chest wavered. "Hello, sweetie," Summer said, the first thing that came to her mind. "How've you been?" "Oh gods, no, no, no. Take it back. That was so corny." Ruby blinked once. "Who are you?" Summer flinched. Her daughter didn't recognize her. She didn't begrudge the girl for that. Longer hair and the masked ghastly fragments etched against her skin worked against her here. To say nothing of her left arm. She'd been so careful to hide it, to wrap it up in bandages, but there could be nothing done about the white thorns jutting from her shoulder. Her voice was a little rougher, gone hoarse from spending a decade trapped inside that abomination. She wasn't the same person anymore. She was a monster. No matter what Naruto said. This was a mistake. She shouldn't have come here. Sorry about all the ruckus. Naruto saved the day by dropping down to his haunches. But you're Ruby Rose, right? The girl blinked. Yes? Pretty sure this your mother. He planted a palm in Summer's shoulders and sent her stumbling forward. I brought her back. Say hello, Summer. Her numb mind latched onto the words. Hello, Summer? With those words, something clicked. Ruby's eyes went terribly wide. She blinked. Once. Twice. Thrice. Took one step back. Then another. Another still. A tremulous cry fled from the little girl's lips. Her pale complexion became ghost white. And yet, despite that, she still stretched a hand forward. Mom? Is that really you? How are you here? It was like flicking a switch. All of Summer's fear, all her anxiety, all her terror evaporated in an instant. She moved. Her legs carried her forward 3 steps forward and her arms, both human and grim alike, swept down. Ruby never stood a chance. She barely managed a startled leap before she found herself swept up into a mother embrace. My baby! You've gotten so big! Ruby inhaled deeply against her. Summer winced despite herself. Ruby was seldom one to shout, that was Yang's territory, but by the gods, when she did. Dad! Sure enough, the girl threw her head back and screamed at the top of her lungs. Yang! Mom's back! Everyone went mad. In the chaos that followed, Summer never heard Yang coming until she quite suddenly materialized in the doorway. Her foster daughter was simply there, leapfrogging Ruby to slam into her chest. Not one to be left out, Ruby hit her legs, nearly knocking the wounded warrior over altogether. Their voices blended together in delighted cries until she couldn't hear a thing. Indeed, Summer barely managed to catch herself on the porch railing and steady herself before the next wave came. And oh, come it did! Taeyang barreled out the door at speed. Aha! That was Crow behind him, and swept her up into his arms. He barely had time to kiss her, and she him, before Crow lost his foot, slammed into his back and sent the lot of them tumbling. It was too much. Summer finally lost her balance and pitched backward. They all went down in a tangle of arms and limbs. Naruto stepped back as they fussed over her. There. He'd done his part, brought Summer back to her family, safe and sound. Something scraped against the back of his mind, like claws on a couch cushion. He closed his eyes against it with a sigh. The Grimm were coming even now, drawn to him like a beacon. Patch was a small island, so it likely had little in the way of any true giants like the Leviathan or a roaming Goliath, but he didn't want to take his chances. More might very well spawn if he lingered her too long. It was time to leave. Sparing one last glance for Summer and her merry brood, he pivoted and walked away. Well, it was nice while it lasted. Wait! A hand snagged his sleeve and dragged him back. It didn't belong Summer. Naruto knew it at once by the rough timbre in their voice, as much as the strength in their hand. The sheer strength behind it startled him for a moment, but only a moment. Then he planted his feet, and quite suddenly, Crow Branwen found himself in a tug of war with the human equivalent of a mountain. Blue eyes flashed red. Let me go. Not a chance. Branwen butted heads with him. You're not going anywhere until you've answered some questions, pal. Crow, it's fine. Summer struggled upright and made it to one knee. Let him go. No, it's not. He snapped at her. I'm glad you're back and all, but who the heck is he? Where have you been all this time? Naruto's jaw clicked shut. To say anything now was to damn Summer. If he just kept quiet, then maybe, just maybe he'd be able to prevent this. He'd be damned if he dragged her across Remnant only for this to end in disaster. Silver eyes met blue. Summer raised her left arm, hesitated, then peeled back the bandages concealing her left limb. In the same moment, her left eye bled black and red. Ruby gasped. Yang toppled backward. Taeyeon winced. Summer, what is? And Crow? Crow absolutely exploded. What the hell? He pulled me out of a Grimm. She met the man's stare equally. Lethally. That's why I look like this. He saved my life. More like you put her there. Oh sure, blame me if it makes you feel better. Naruto rolled his eyes. Not like I did this to be kind or anything. No. Not at all. He did. Summer glowered bloody red daggers at him. He can control the Grimm. I saw him. He's a good man. Do you even hear yourself? Crow drew his blade. He's a madman. Lunatic. Abomination. Crow, don't. Harbinger slammed down. It crunched against an open palm. You keep throwing those words around like they mean something. For the first time in a long time, Naruto felt a new emotion. What have I done wrong? It felt like anger. Have I killed anyone? No. Have my allies killed anyone? No. His eyes began to itch, and as he bared his teeth in snarl. Yet you demean and denigrate me at every turn. Firm fingers tightened around the blade, bending the steel beneath. You hiss and spit and twist the truth like I'm some kind of raving imbecile. This is your last chance to end this peacefully. Let me through, and I'll be on my way. But try and keep me here. Summer struggled upright. No! You can't go! Fear and pain blinded Crow still. How do we even know it's really you, Summer? Paranoid bird. Silver eyes narrowed. You wore a skirt in Beacon. There? Is that good enough for you? She absolutely hissed. Or should I tell everyone about that time we caught you and Meg in the bathroom? Maybe even that day you went on a panty raid with. Ack. Crow's face turned an alarming shade of puce. Not that. Anything but that. Taeyang chortled into his wife's shoulder. Yup. Definitely her. Just like that, the tension, well, it didn't exactly evaporate per se, not with Crow still glowering at him, but it did begin to abate. Naruto's gaze swung back to Taeyang, the one person who had yet to denounce him. Indeed, he barely said a word now. Yet those sky-blue eyes had never left him. Not a once. Two blondes regarded one another intently. Neither moved. Neither blinked. Finally, one of them yielded. Yuri awfully accepting of all this. I'm actually freaking out right now. Taeyang leaned back with a sigh. But you brought my wife back. That makes you family in my book. Family? The word hit him like a punch in the grunt, if only because he never thought to hear them in his lifetime. Nor was he the only one. Family? To hell with this. Crow all but spat the words. You're all rolling over for him. I'll get Ajban. I'm entirely too sober for this shit. Summer raised a hand. Crow, wait. That's not a good idea. Branwen most assuredly did not wait for her. With a snarl, he vanished in an explosion of feathers and took wing as a scruffy-looking crow. Huh. Name made sense now. Naruto blinked after him, somewhat awed by the display. Nifty trick. He could have used that more than once in the past. Dad, I don't get it. Ruby finally found her voice at last and turned to regard him. Who is that? Is he a bad guy? Yeah. Yang chimed in. What gives? Are gonna kick his butt or what? A blonde brow rose. I'd like to see you try, short stack. Hey. Summer managed a laugh where she lay. That's the man who saved me, girls. Why don't you say hello? Yang regarded him with red yes. Wait, you mean he really did that? Ruby squinted. He wasn't lying? Naruto absolutely froze. Summer could see the gears grinding in their minds. Silver and lilac eyes flitted from her, then to Naruto. Back to her. Toward poor Naruto again. She saw the proverbial light bulb ignite above Ruby's head. Yang was only a heartbeat behind, bless her soul. Naruto must have saw it too, because he balked and raised his arms to defend himself. Too little, too late. He took a step backward. Now wait just a second. Ruby Rose vanished in a cloud of petals. Yan Xiaolong struck him like a falling star. Summer preened proudly as her girls began to babble. You saved Mom? Really? You did? Thank you, Thayan Kyuya. Naruto knew he shouldn't stay any longer. It hurt him to admit that, wounded his sad soul more than words could possibly describe. But there it was. The truth. He'd lingered too long, another day and all of Patch might well pay the price for his hubris. He shouldn't have spent the night at all, yet in a moment of weakness he faltered, caved to human comforts and the companionship he'd eschewed for so long. And now he found himself here, not wanting to go. Truly, he bore these people no ill will. Really. He didn't. He simply endangered them by being here. Even now he felt nearby Grimm tugging at his consciousness, a series of jagged thorns that pulled harder with each passing hour. They were curious for the time being, intrigued, not yet willing to risk themselves and approach him outright, let alone attack. But that would soon change. These walls would not protect him. They wouldn't protect anyone. Idiot. He muffled a sigh within his palms and pressed his forehead to the kitchen table. What were you thinking? You knew this would happen. Are you okay, Uncle? I'm fine. Ruby. He sighed at the little girl sitting cross-legged across from him. Without thinking, he reached around and patted her head. And I'm not your uncle. The girl in question winced, yet remained quite unbowed in the face of his resolve. You are. Guileless silver eyes met wary blue. Yes, you are. She all but latched onto his hand. You saved Mommy. That makes you family. So. Her brow furrowed, Uncle. Ah, the logic of a child. How he'd forgotten it. All right. He chortled softly. Uncle. Can have my hand back now? No take-backs? Ruby refused to release his hand, cheeky imp that she was. Naruto stifled a patient sigh. Have it your own way. He didn't know who this Ajban fellow was that Crow had threatened him with, but as either had yet to materialize with the dawn, he counted himself lucky. He just needed to leave before he met the man. Crows seemed the sort to carry through with the threats, certainly when family was involved. A faint shifting in his shoulder told him his guest was acting up again. He'd given the little creature a name, and it seemed stronger for it. Casper. Seemed fitting, that. Naruto turned a weather eye on it. Stay in there, you? The little fellow most assuredly did not. Breakfast is ready. He sat with a weary effort. One last meal wouldn't hurt, surely. Naruto wasn't trying to hide. For the life of her, Lisa Lavender couldn't understand. She'd managed to ferret out her quarry's name, and incredible as it might sound, he hadn't fled in the night. He had made no effort to leave Patch behind, to run, or even had come and gone, allowing her to track him down. She had found him easily, dare she say too easily. A few grease palms here, a kind word there, and she was led right to his doorstep. Well, not his doorstep. This was the home of one Taiyang Xiaolong, a retired huntsman. Did he have any idea who he was harboring? Probably not. Made things interesting, that did. Surely a man with such power knew better? It was just common sense. When your very existence threatened to shatter the norms of society, you didn't stay in one place for long. Plain common sense, that. So why? Was he a coward or a killer? Brave, or just foolish? Her knees twisted, idly rubbing together, as she neared the worn oak door. She just had to know. She must know. She needed to know. Lisa raised her fist and swung. Knock. 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 Destiny calls? Ashbin pinched the brow of his nose. This changed things. And yet things must not change. To think of Grimm as people threatened to unbalance the world itself. Yet to sacrifice a single being to preserve the balance of this world, it didn't feel right. He had to meet with him. Get the measure of this man before he damned him. Nothing less would do. Someone was knocking on their door. A steady tap-tap-tap drilled through the wood, like some wily woodpecker come to call. The sound reverberated loudly through the household, a timeless call that couldn't be ignored. They weren't terribly loud about it at that, just really persistent. Ruby on a sugar-high kind of persistent. Tap. 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 Yang paid it no mind at first. Her focus was fixed firmly on the heaping pile of pancakes Mommy and Daddy had given her. Ruby tried to steal some, as she always did, which started something a fork war between the two of them. Sure, that worked for a while, but only a while. That knocking just wouldn't stop. Really, she wanted to smack whoever was on the other side. Is anyone there? A woman's voice came through. I'm looking for a man named Naruto? Mom and Dad exchanged a glance. The blonde in question groaned. Guess that's my cue. I'll get it. Mom winced. You sure? Yeah. This is my problem. Stay out of sight. Now it was Dad's turn to wince. You're right. If she's seen like this. Dad didn't need to be told twice. He ushered Mom upstairs. Ruby darted up the steps after her, unwilling to be separated again after so long an absence. Yang barely paid them any mind. Her attention was fixed firmly on the door. She lingered, when she really shouldn't have. And so she saw it all. Uncle Naruto padded to the door with the look of a man grounded for life. Was he in trouble? He looked like he was in trouble. Why would he be in trouble? He knew Uncle was a good person. He had to be. Anyone who did the things he did must be good. She refused to believe otherwise. He'd brought Summer back even if she looked a little different. Didn't matter. Mom was Mom. That mattered. She craned her neck and watched the door creak open a few inches. Hello? A woman with wild golden eyes and long violet blue hair thrust her head through, grinning from ear to ear. You must be Naruto. Her new uncle recoiled. And you are? Call me Lisa. The young woman smiled, but made no move to enter. Lisa Lavender. She reached through and shook his hand. I'm your friend, Naruto. I want to tell the world your story. His face closed down immediately, lock, stock, and barrel. Don't have a story to tell. See, you say that, she cooed, but I'm thinking you do. After all. Lisa leaned forward and whispered something. Whatever it was had Naruto recoiling with a hiss. He tried to shut the door in her face, only for her to stick a foot in and deny him. Her forehead struck his, and for an awful moment Yang couldn't help but wonder if they were going to fight. Neither batted so much as bat an eyelash. Are you mad? How did you see that? Maybe a little. Lisa planted a fist on her hip. All the best reporters are. And I have my sources. So? What do you say to an interview? You don't have a camera. Her grin reminded Yang of a shark. Give me 5 minutes and I'll have a full crew here. Naruto's jaw clenched. Or later, if you'd like. Her hand flitted out, passing something to him. Here's my card. A piece of paper flitted between them, and she scribbled something on it. Meet me at this address if you want to talk. Just remember, I saw you first. An elbow nudged his ribs. I'm happy to sit on this for a day or two. Don't keep me waiting. Why me? Because you're going to change the world. I like change. Lisa's smile gained an edge. I want to be part of that. Change? What kind of change? Yang didn't understand. She wasn't sure she wanted to. In the end, Uncle Naruto took the crazy lady by the arm and escorted her out. Just as well, too, because Yang spied movement in the window. That was Crow now, coming down the road. She saw him through the glass. There was another man behind him. A man with a cane. She turned just in time to see Lisa book it. Merry golden eyes saw her and winked. Ciao, darling. I'll ask this again. Do you work for Salem? No. Naruto all but bit the word out, resisting the urge to grind his teeth. I didn't even know who she was until a few days ago. Seated at the Rose/Shalong family table, he found himself the subject of some scrutiny. Crow loomed before him. Summer had taken up a flanking position on his left, while Tai had claimed his right outlets to keep him from fleeing. Or perhaps they were standing with him. He wasn't sure which was worse. No doubt they thought they were helping him. They weren't. You're with her, aren't you? The former accused. You're on her side. Side? What side? Naruto grit his teeth at the man before him. I'm on humanity's side. And yet Miss Rose is much changed because of you. The man whom he now knew to be Ashpin swept an arm towards Summer. She's not even human anymore. A power like that only Salem could have it. I don't care what you believe. Another headache hit, and he blinked back stars. It's the truth. Ask your questions and leave. I would have the truth. Oz, stop that right now. Summer clamped a hand down on his before he could speak. He saved me. Give him the benefit of the doubt. More like he made you one of them. He turned you into I dunno, Crow flailed for the words, a hybrid or something. Naruto clicked his tongue. Paranoid old bird. Let's all calm down. Taeyang thrust himself between them before they could come to blows. We're all friends here. Are we? Naruto glowered bloody red daggers at Crow. Blasted bird brain doesn't seem to think so. Much to his chagrin, Ashpin seemed to agree. We'll need to run tests at the very least. Summer whimpered. His resolve hardened. Not happening. Whyever not? The wise old sage frowned. If you're as innocent as you claim, Then surely you wouldn't object to a bit of blood work. And be your lab rat? He turned his head aside and spat. Never. I don't work for you. But you could. After the way you and yours have treated me so far? His hand slammed down on the table. I don't think so. He didn't trust any of these people. More than that, they were coming. Yet when he tried to stand, he found himself blocked once more. Do you wish to make an enemy of us, then? Naruto didn't answer him. Blue eyes rose to comprehend the ceiling fan above, lazily watching it spin round and round. He wondered if it would make a decent distraction for what was to come. Cannot be revealed to the world. Ashbin's words snapped him back to reality. I'm sorry, son, but I'm afraid we'll have to take you into custody. He must have seen the anger in his eyes, because he took a short step back from him. I cannot take any chances. Rest assured, I will see that you are treated humanely. Panic beat its wings within his chest and Naruto felt his shoulders quiver. No. No cages. Not ever again. It wasn't fair. He just wanted to help. And they were going to lock him up. No. He couldn't stay, not when it would put everyone in danger. You're making a mistake. He lowered his gaze and looked upon the face that threatened to undo all the good he'd done. I'm not your enemy, Ashbin. I don't want to be your enemy. But you're going to make one of me at this rate. This from the man who leads Grimm? His words fell on deaf ears. Your deeds say otherwise. Naruto grit his teeth. Look, I'll do it for you. A clawed finger stabbed outward. The Grimm are attracted to me. His words struck the heart, shattering whatever argument they might have made. They'll find me here, sooner or later. I need to get gone before that happens. Before he swallowed once, steeled himself, and said the damning words. Before they attack. There. He'd said it. Any moment now, they'd kick him out. This would be over, and he could go on his merry way. I'm afraid it's not that simple. How can we believe what you just said? Yes, it is. Naruto clicked his teeth as he raised his gaze. You can make it simple. You have that power. Let me go and you'll never hear from me again. Something rattled the house. Something big. Everyone jumped. Summer swore. What was that just now? Enough. Naruto sighed. I'm leaving. All hell broke loose. Crow made a reckless grab for his arm. Casper burst out of a shoulder and shrieked at for it. The poor drunkard recoiled and staggered back, hit the table, then went crashing over it as the Grimm gave him a good hard shove. Naruto saw his chance for what it was and made a beeline for the window. Ashbin intercepted him. He swept his feet, sending him tumbling down into Crow. Tangled up in one another, neither men were in any shape to stop him nor what came barreling through the front door. An almighty crunch filled the air and he had all of an instant to raise an arm as the wall behind him evaporated. Just as well, because he turned to find himself face to face with a massive Beowulf. Are you kidding me? You have such shitty timing. Nobody. Move. Naruto felt rather than saw Summer hide behind his back. Crow and Ashbin, still sprawled out on the floor, froze all the same. They, who had argued against him only moments ago, now listened to him without question. Knew why. None of them had their weapons to hand. In the time it would take for them to find their footing, the creature could easily tear their throats out. And yet it didn't. No, the alpha Beowulf ignored them all in favor of him. The beast was massive, not at all like the others he'd faced. Easily twice his size, all but rippling with muscle, back bristling with jagged white spines. It must have come from the deeper part of the forest. It took one look at Summer and ignored her, as it would any other Grimm. Not so Naruto. It loped forward. He saw it in his mind's eye, felt its curiosity as if it were his own. Its mighty muzzle beeped just so, regarding him with idle curiosity. As he looked on it plunged down on its hind legs. With that simple gesture, the blonde released a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Not hostile. No, yet. Nothing had set it off. All right. He raised his right hand with infinite care. You don't want to hurt anyone here, do you? Its hackles rose in a growl. I said, he growled back, you don't want to hurt anyone. Just like that, its once fearsome snarl trailed off into a pitiful whine. Summer's jaw clicked open. Did he just out-alpha a freaking Beowulf? There you go. He turned that same palm upright to show himself harmless, allowing it to take in his scent at its leisure. See? I'm no threat to you. None of these people are. Crow hissed. What are you doing? Saving your life. Naruto bit out. He didn't take his eyes off the wolf. Not once, he didn't dare. Now shut up and let me work. He felt the weight of the wolf's regard pressing down on him like a heavy blanket, thick and cloying. It made it difficult to think, let alone breathe. But he didn't waver. Even as it began to sniff at him like some curious pup would unto a member of its pack. Wait. Pack? Oh dear. He grunted as its wet snout slammed into his chest, only to laugh as a rough and wet tongue all but slapped him in the face. The action physically staggered him. Stop that! Firm hands set themselves behind the beast's ears as it continued to nuzzle him. I'm not part of your pack. I'm just passing through. Now let's get you out of here, eh? Ashbin watched with wide eyes from where he lay. Fascinating, you really can control them. They're not evil. Naruto scowled. Just sensitive to emotions. It's not their fault. A shrill cry from the stairs cut him off. Grimm! The Beowulf rounded on the sound and Naruto with it. He felt the fear next and beheld a flash of silver eyes as Ruby's frightened face peeking down at them from the staircase. Yan was behind her, trying to tug her little sister back, to no avail. The die was cast, the words spoken, and the silence broken. It moved. There was no sound, no warning, nothing at all. One moment it crouched beside Naruto, utterly at its ease. In the next, it broke his grip, exploded into motion. Summer shrieked at it. Don't you dare! And the wolf flinched. Naruto wasn't sure why, and he hadn't the time to ponder it. He dove on the monster before it could recover, grabbing it by the scruff of the neck to reel it in. It didn't like that one bit. Sharp claws slashed out at him as it writhed in his grasp, bloodying his arms and coat. He grit his teeth and slammed it back through the wall, sending crashed out into the yard. He waded out after it, shucking his ruined cloak as he went. You just had to make things difficult, didn't you? A spark snarled between his teeth. I had it all under control. But no! Nothing ever goes my way. The beast bounded back up, snapping at him. He flung up an arm. Razor teeth clamped down around it, engulfing it up to the elbow. You want my arm? He scowled at it. Go ahead. Take it. If you can. Its claws caught at his jacket, bloodying him anew. Strong jaws crunched down on his limb, gnawing furiously for naught. He kicked it away and flung his will at it like a net, trying to curb its aggression and convince it to flee. Drunk on dark emotion, fear, anger, hatred, it resisted wholeheartedly. It was awake now, its blood up, and yet for all that, it wasn't at fault here. He knew that. It had been calm until Ruby screamed. Until it felt her fear. Until it saw her silver eyes. Silver eyes. He didn't have time to make a correlation between the two. Already it was turning back toward the house. Naruto flung his savage arm out after the Grimm and his will with it. Stop! His will, his command, hit it like a physical force, rooting it in place. He pounced. His hand came down on its mask, felt its frenzied mind clash with his, and pushed through. He loathed doing this to a creature that clearly expressed signs of reason and intelligence, but he had no choice. It was fixated on Ruby. No! Not now! Azure orbs flashed into scarlet, black bleeding against the white of his eyes. He spoke with a voice like thunder. You will obey. Its body shivered. Stay! He stabbed a finger at the monstrosity before it could bound towards Summer's home. His voice was word and light and power. There was no time for niceties. He didn't simply break the Grimm, he dominated it, all but lashed his will against its feeble intellect and shoved it down until such a time as it could resurface again. Black fur burnished gold as cracks scrawled across its mask. Those jagged bony spines on his back shrunk and curled inward, vanishing into its spine. Its once tense posture went slack as control was wrested away from it, however briefly. Still he held on until the process was complete, fearing the alpha Beowulf might break free. But it didn't. He felt the moment that it calmed, all its aggressions slipping away like so much water through his fingers. The creature couldn't quite bow, not as a human could, but it still pressed its snout against the earth all the same with a soft grumble. Only then did he dare move his hand. Scarlet sparks scrawled across his palm, and he winced a little at the feedback. A little pain was a small price to pay for peace. Oh wow! He heard Summer whisper somewhere behind him. So that's what it looks like. Further back a cane clattered to the floor. No. That's impossible. Naruto cast a weather eye over his shoulder, already knowing what he would find there. Summer and the others had recovered while he grappled with the surly alpha. Now he found them looking at him as if he'd grown a second head. Casper popped out of his shoulder with a curious trill, and he didn't have the heart to shove the little geist back down. He must have looked quite the sight, battered and bloodied, lording over a giant Grimm as if he were some sort of king. Likewise, he read their expressions. Awe in Summer, shock from Crow and suspicion from Ashbin. He knew what would come next, what always did. It was time to leave. Good boy. Naruto slapped the beast once on the shoulder. Come on, let's get out of here. I think we've overstayed our welcome. A wash of hot steam struck him in the face as the beast imploded from within. Bits of bone and golden fur blasted him in the face, sending him sputtering. Naruto flung up an arm and squinted into the sudden haze. What in the world? He looked. And then he saw. He soon wished he hadn't. Something flashed in his peripherals. So glad I stayed. Lisa Lavender knelt yet lower in the bushes, concealing herself yet further from any prying eyes. All the while her scroll clicking rapidly incessantly, as it captured picture after picture. Forget news. This might just be the scoop of the century. This was history. Was he cursed? Because he was starting to feel cursed. Naruto all but flung up his arms and shouted at the heavens. Stop putting people in Grimm, damn it! The hell am I supposed to do with all these followers? Excuse me? For once again, there was a person in place of the Grimm he just tamed. Whomever she might be, and this was most certainly a she, they were a dark-skinned beauty, body well-toned and wreathed in scars. Clearly a fauness of some sort, judging by her gray wild beast-like ears and swaying tail to match. A lone silver eye regarded him curiously, warily, while the other remained a scarred mess, sealed by an old wound. All told, she looked a warrior in every way, like some female Amazon straight out of legend. She was also naked. Very naked. Funny how he'd failed to notice that last bit until now. Oh, for the love of... He flailed and flung his jacket at them. It landed around their shoulders loosely. She didn't even try to grasp at it. Her lone eye looked right. Left now. Right again. She shook her entire body as one might expect of a dog or a wolf, and finally craned her neck up at him. A slow, almost sleepy blink followed, as though she weren't quite awake. Her head turned just so, and he saw bits of a broken mask framing her face in a pseudo-collar of some sort, one that branched toward her right ear. And still she stared at him. At last. Freedom. When she finally spoke, her voice was low indeed, the voice of a warrior through and through. feels strange. Back toward the house, Crow made a noise and crashed backward in a dead faint. Who the hell were you and why were you in that Grimm? Naruto took the lull for what it was. He dropped down to his haunches. Nearly kneeling before the woman, he fixed her with a fearsome scowl and continued his interrogation. Is this gonna be a pattern or something? It has been so long, and my path so dark. She seemed to visibly struggle with the words, as if speaking were an effort after so many years of silence. I no longer remember my name. Well, that's going to be a problem. Very much so, in more ways than one, because he had no idea what he was doing here. What do I call you? I'll the pack. The young, dusky-skinned woman frowned, silver eye flashing as she gazed upon him. Alpha. My name is Alpha. This was all too much. Way above his pay grade. No, wait. He wasn't even getting paid for these shenanigans. He just wanted to show the world that the Grimm weren't evil, that they could be lived with, instead of fought. Instead, he'd stumbled upon a secret best left forgotten. Were Grimm really people? Or were people Grimm? He wasn't sure how he felt about that. How could he? They were treading new ground here, and he didn't know the way forward. There could be no going back. The only way out was through. Not the best name, I guess, but it'll do. He reached down and helped them to their feet. Easy now. Unfortunately, in standing, the newly named Alpha lost the jacket he'd flung over her body. It crumpled to the floor at her feet. Naruto felt his cheeks burn a bright vermilion before he wrestled his eyes under control. With a supreme effort of will, he stooped down, snatched up the tattered garment, and held it out to her with one hand. For his good dead, he received only silence. Naruto pinched his brow and pointedly averted his gaze. Clothes now. Please. Wear them. Alpha frowned and beeped her to one side. Why? Why? Because you're human again. Another blink, lazy as the last. And? This really wasn't his day. He wanted to say more, and would have if he hadn't looked up. He looked up and saw countless red eyes staring at him from the woods. More Grimm. Had to get away. Now. His hand swept out toward them. His will touched theirs, begging them to be still, and they complied. He'd never tried to sway this many at once. A ring of concentric green light swept out behind him, forcing him to duck and drag Alpha down with him. It kept going and smote the rest as one, rendering their bodies so much ash on the wind. Naruto flinched, feeling their deaths as if they were his own. Connected to each of them, it was like a dozen deaths. All gone, in the blink of an eye. They hadn't deserved that. They were only curious. Alpha snarled into his side, screaming a single word. Murderer! Unfortunately for you, a familiar voice drawled, history will not see it that way. Naruto climbed to his feet, hauling the struggling woman with him. He already knew who he would find there. Sure enough, Ashpin had finally recovered from his shock and was now advancing upon them, cane in hand. His expression remained carefully neutral as he stopped some feet away. Impressive, here at last, he smiled, and it was a stern thing indeed. Most impressive. I had no idea you were truly capable of this. Now that we've dealt with that little interruption, I must insist that you surrender yourself. His cane came up, flourished as a fencer might their blade. I truly mean neither of you harm, but I will use force if necessary. Naruto bridled. Never. He placed 2 fingers between his teeth and whistled. Nothing happened. Ashpin quirked a gray brow. And what was that meant to accomplish? Scree! Ashpin made the mistake of looking up, if only for a moment. It would prove his undoing. An ear-piercing shriek filled the air as a dark shadow swooped down from on high, an arrow of purest black and white midnight. Naruto couldn't quite hold back a smile at the sight of it. His nevermore much recovered thanks to its day of rest struck the ground like a ballistic missile. The sheer shockwave of its landing blasted the sage back, forcing him to retreat when faced with its sharp beak. At his side, Alpha made a faint nose of approval and stalked forward. Her visible eye gleamed with murder. No! No killing! Naruto frog marched her forward. Get on the damn bird! As you command? His noble steed flared its wings, sending razor-sharp quills shooting into the dirt. They fell well short of Asuba as intended. Their impact alone kicked up a cloud of dust from the word dirt road, a smothering smokescreen that forced the stubborn wizard to shield his face with an arm lest he be blinded. It bought them precious seconds to climb aboard the great bristling bird, time enough for it to beat its wings and take flight. A shard of wild green light pierced the haze and struck the creature's chest. It faltered in mid-stroke, but didn't fall. Naruto saw the next, caught it, and sent it slamming back to its owner. Asuba grunted and went sprawling. For a moment, just a moment, the haze cleared. And he saw again. Naruto cast one last fretful glance down at Summer, and her daughters with her. There was so much he wanted to say. To do. He would have liked to talk with her a little more. To say his goodbyes to Ruby and Yang. To explain. To make them see that he wasn't the villain here, that he never wanted to be. Shame colored his face. They'd be terrified of him after this. Definitely. Probably. Who could possibly befriend a man that walked with the Grimm? Even children knew better. The girls looked up, saw him, and waved, in defiance of everything he'd expected. His heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. Bye-bye, Uncle. Ruby hopped in place, waving furiously. Thanks for bringing Mommy back. Yang cupped both hands to either side of her mouth. Don't get caught. His throat closed. In the end, only 2 words came. I'm sorry. Summer lurched forward, arm outstretched. Wait. Too late, his mount beat its wings anew and they soared into the sky, leaving her behind. Red eyes opened in the gloom. And in that darkness, Salem smiled. There you are, she cooed, little usurper. The wilds of Vale were lush and beautiful. A savage land yet unconquered by man, yet teeming with life all the same. There were no settlements this far off the beaten path, no roads to follow, no hunters to avoid, no sign of civilization to be seen for miles on end in any given direction. No one could find a man in this place if he didn't wish to be found. It was into this paradise that Naruto bid his Nevermore land, allowing it to alight upon a grassy knoll. Alpha dismounted a heartbeat before him, all but throwing herself from the beast's back. Naruto cast a weather eye at her pallid expression. You all right? Blurg. She dropped to all fours and heaved upon the grass. That was awful. If man was meant to fly, he would have been born with wings. So, not all right then. Naruto dismounted next, biting back a smile. He didn't much understand this strange woman, but at least he didn't have to worry about ferrying her back to a family that he knew of. The more he dwelt on it, the more he wanted to believe. Maybe this wasn't so bad after all. He had done good, and that was good enough. He might never see Summer again, and though the thought stung, he could at least take some solace that she was safe with her family. It would be fine. Only a fool would try to hurt her now. All's well that ends well, I guess. I'll say. A peal of euphoric laughter caught his ears. What a rush! That beat a bullhead by a mile. Naruto whirled just in time to see a familiar figure tumble off the bird's back and land in the grass. He blinked, not quite comprehending who he was looking at. He blinked again. 3 times for good measure. Hit himself upside the head. Scrubbed at his eyes with the back of his hand. Nope. Still there. Which begged the question. Why was she here? You must be joking. Alpha straightened and rounded on her with a snarl. Intruder! No! Naruto yanked her back by the scruff of the neck before she could pounce. Don't! She stilled once more. Their Nevermore began to preen its feather, wholly unconcerned with its hitchhiker. Naruto circled around the great raven and scowled down at the individual in question. Hair disheveled from the frantic flight, they beamed back at him without a care in the world, without even the slightest regard for their well-being. "Hello?" Lisa Lavender flashed a jaunty little wave from where she lay. "Long time no see." Naruto felt his right eye twitch. "We literally spoke less than an hour ago." She waved his words away. "Semantics," he growled. "Why? Are you here?" Lisa grinned up at him. "I already told you." As he looked on, she sat up, ran a hand down her rumpled clothes, and fished out her scroll. "I want to tell the world your story." "I meant it. And after what I just saw?" That small smile gained an edge, one he found himself admittedly fond of. "Your news. I never let a good story get away from me." A disbelieving guffaw burst from him. "You jumped on a Nevermore, all for that?" She offered a self-same smile. "I've done crazier things. Also, I'm staying." Naruto couldn't help but sigh. "I don't get any say in this, do I?" Lisa's grin reminded him of a shark. "Nope." The ghost of a smile touched his face. Stubborn girl. Naruto knew what it was to be strange. Since he'd first awakened to his gift, he'd witnessed all manner of unusual things. Strange things. Eerie things. Sights that would drive a man mad, sounds to curdle the blood, curses so black and mostly directed in his direction that they would turn a sailor pink. As a man who could talk to and convert Grimm, he liked to think he ranked pretty high up there on that list of oddities. "She's doing it again." Naruto snapped his journal shut with a sigh as Alpha prodded his ribs. There would be no more writing for him this day. Because this baffled even him. "Fascinating," Lisa cooed as she gently pried a Beowulf's gaping maw apart. "I've never seen a Grimm this close before. It's downright tame. Do they need to eat, I wonder?" The poor creature, recently tamed at that, offered a piteous whine but otherwise didn't protest. "Lisa Lavender, remove your head from the Beowulf this instant." "Oh." She pouted, yet nevertheless pulled her head from the jaws of the docile dog. "You're no fun." "You've been at it for the better part of the day, now." Naruto shook his head as the creature all but scarpered back into the woods. "If you want to do research that badly, study Alpha. She doesn't bite." He offered a bit of meat to the hybrid in question, and grimaced a little when she bit his hand to get at it. "Well, relatively speaking." His ally slumped against his shoulder, lone eye closed, tail swaying in visible bliss. "But that's no fun." The reporter flopped down on the grass beside him. "I've already racked up enough footage of her." She flailed her legs, forcing Naruto to look elsewhere lest he inadvertently get an eyeful under her skirt. "I know what she is. But no one knows anything about the Grimm. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." Merlot would have loved this woman. So curious. So inquisitive. So exquisitely infuriating. "Well, you can learn later." He gestured toward their simmering fire, and the pan placed atop it. "Dinner's about ready. Best eat up. I want to make it there by morning." "But it's nearly night." A blonde brow quirked at her. "And?" The journalist slouched over with the air of someone marching toward the execution. From there, she plunked down on the log and snatched up the meal he'd made. She gave it a cursory sniff, and her shoulders slumped even further. "Beans again?" "If you don't want it, I'll eat it," Alpha opined. No, I do." Lisa yanked the tin away. "Keep your paws to yourself." The hybrid pouted. "Boo, not even a nibble?" "No." Naruto shook his head as they quarreled anew. Their camp was a ramshackle little thing, a trio of tents and bedrolls around an equally simple fire pit in the waning light of day. By now the shadows were long and the sun had already begun its inevitable descent, In the span of a few hours it would be dark. That suited him just fine. He'd much rather travel light and at night. Some might have said the latter was unwise, but really, who was going to notice a fire burning out in the wilderness? Only the Grimm, and he had nothing to fear from them. To expect any more than this would have been greedy, and he'd long since learned to live off the land. In his peripherals, Lisa finally managed to finish her meal. How long will it take us to get to Vale? He frowned at her as Alpha curled up beside him. Couple of days, tops. Why? Because that's where my studio is, you mook. She winged a pebble off his shoulder. How else are we going to break this story? To be honest, I'd forgotten about that. Well, I haven't. Lisa held up her scroll. Don't you want revenge? He put a bounty on your head. Alpha's tail twitched once in agitation. And anyone who tries to collect it will die. Hey! He flicked it. We've been over this. No killing innocents. A lone silver eye rose to regard him gravely. Bounty hunters aren't innocent, master. Lisa grinned. On that we agree. He'd seen the footage she'd recorded on her scroll. It wasn't the best quality, but the video was clear enough. Once that hit open channels, it would blow Vale wide open, to say nothing of Ashbin's reputation. That would go right down the drain, no matter how quickly the media managed to suppress it. Assuming they even bothered. When there was blood in the waterwell. You knew the saying. It would also paint an even bigger target on his back, as if there wasn't one already. He'd seen the bounty on his head. 9 million lien. Wanted for crimes against Remnant. Alive. Great. Just great. It had been difficult enough slipping in and out of civilization before. Now it would be all but impossible. Perhaps it was vindictive of him to take his anger out on Ashbin in such a manner. Then again, the man did try to capture him and Alpha. He'd probably do the same Lisa too, if he was aware of her. Man deserved a little misery for all the trouble he put him through. Can't we just fly to Vale? Alpha sneezed once, and he gave her head a pat. Sure, he sighed as his fingers stroked her ears. A giant nevermore over the city would go so well. Fancy falling to death? Irk. Lisa made a noise of discontent and leaned back. No need to be mean. Why did it feel like he was kicking a puppy? I'm not being mean. He sighed into a hand. Just pragmatic. You sure you don't regret throwing your lot in with me? Ha! Her laughter reminded him a country girl, musical and sweet. You think this is the first time I've roughed it? No, no, no. A finger wagged in his face. You're not getting rid of me that easy. Besides. Naruto quirked a brow. Besides? I'm not wanted. She favored him with a shit-eating grin of the highest degree. You are. I could walk into Vale without a care in the world. So could Alpha. If she keeps her clothes on. The hybrid huffed and tugged at the blue-on-silver tunic they'd stolen for her. Don't like clothes. Itchy. See? Lisa leaned back on the log, grinning from ear to ear. She gets it. He rolled his eyes. So loyal. Alpha stirred at his side, creaking a silver eye open. I'm a journalist, bub. Lisa drawled right back. I'm loyal to a good story. Right now, that's you. So? How about I test you? Naruto smashed his head his palms. Once. Twice. Thrice. 4 times for good measure. I swear! He flung up his arms. I'm surrounded by crazy people. Lisa grinned. So, is that a yes or? Naruto glared at her. Not the time. Can't blame a girl for trying. A hand closed around her throat. It didn't belong to him. You are not a part of this pack. Alpha surged up with a hiss, fangs flashing in the gloom. If you betray him, she snarled, the Nevermore will pick your bones. Lisa's expression didn't waver in the least. Now, don't threaten me with a good time. Hey, now. Naruto's frown redoubled. Are you afraid? Terrified, really? I'm just a good actor. A bead of sweat ran down her brow. She's hardly the first to try and choke me out over something they didn't like. Her eyes sought his, bright and earnest even as those clawed fingers dug into her windpipe. But I won't turn on you. There was something about the way she phrased that last bit. Why? Lisa pried a hand between the claws digging into her throat, giving herself precious breathing room. Because you are history. The fervor in her eyes, so close to madness, startled him. No one knows what Grimm are. What they do. Her legs kicked out as the snarling hybrid hoisted her off the ground. What they can be. Are they people? The souls of the dead? Do people become them after they die? I want to know. I need to know. I must know. Alpha scoffed. So it's only curiosity that binds you to us. What happens when you've had your fill? The truth, now. You want the truth? Lavender's right eye burned with fresh tears. Fine. A lone droplet ran down her pale cheek. My father tried to look into the Grimm. He died for it. His only crime was curiosity, and the council made him disappear. I want the truth just as much as you do. Naruto perked up. A man interested in the Grimm? That almost sounded like. Should I kill her? Alpha's voice tugged him back to reality. Naruto sighed. Alpha, enough. Release her. The hybrid complied with a frown. As you wish. Lisa fell back with a might wheeze, clutching at her throat. Quite a grip she's got there. Did nothing faze this woman? Look, he hedged, helping her stand. We can't just go straight to Vale. It's too close to Patch. They'll be looking for me there. We need to lay low for a while. Lisa pursed her lips. Then what do you suggest? An idea dawned and he winced. I know a place. Oh, a hideout. Her eyes all but shone with stars. Where? Naruto wore a death's head grin. I'll warn you now, you're not gonna like it. Ironwood hated surprises. A good general planned ahead, creating contingencies for every scenario. He was no exception. Throughout his storied career, he'd thwarted many an enemy scheme, outmaneuvered his foes at every turn. Shock was the enemy of reason. Surprise meant death on the battlefield, and so he had striven to make sure his soldiers were ever prepared. But this threatened to change everything. It threw all his plans out the window and dashed them upon the ground. You're certain of what you saw? I am. He must be dealt with, James. Immediately. Ashbin's image was flecked with static through the scroll upon his desk, a sure sign of the distance between them. I've told you everything I've seen. Will you help me in this? It's imperative he be taken alive. I fear what might happen should he be killed. A muscle jumped in his jaw. Is that why you put a bounty on his head? Ashbin didn't bat an eye. It was necessary. Of course, old friend. Ironwood leaned forward, showing none of the inner turmoil he felt. You'll have all the support Atlas can provide. On that you have my word. Good. The immortal heaved a sigh. We're already preparing to run tests on Summer. One way or another, we'll get to the bottom of this. James frowned. Wouldn't that be in poor taste? She's only just returned to her family. To his credit, the immortal paused. It's only a bit of blood. Taeyang will understand. If you see this man? He wasn't that daft to say no to Oz. Not in public. There were certain lines you didn't cross, things you just didn't do. Semblance or no, he had control of himself. But his old friend was being reckless. Ashbin was letting his emotions get away from him. Anyone could see that this experience had rattled him. Still, an argument would avail them nothing. I'll inform you, he said at last. Excellent. A spark of life came back to the headmaster's gaze. I've already told Leonardo to keep watch in Haven, and Theodore in Shade. Keep me posted. The call ended with a click. A moment passed. Then another. At length, James stood. 3 quick strides carried him to his liquor cabinet, from which he retrieved a clear amber bottle and a pair of crystal glasses. He returned to this desk, uncorked the bottle, and filled the leftmost to the brim. Firm fingers closed around the glass, pressed it to his lips, and knocked it back. Whiskey burned his throat. It centered him. I'm sorry, Oz. He sank into his seat and sighed into the silence. Where you see peril, I see potential. So much potential. A man who could control the Grimm. Tame them. Convert them. If such a talent could be bred, reproduced, it would revolutionize the world. To that end, he must be protected. Salem would never countenance his existence. Worse, she might try to turn him. Doubtless it would be an appealing offer. If the world was arrayed against him, where else could he go? James shivered and poured himself another glass. For a fleeting moment he imagined it. An army of living, thinking Grimm, capable of assuming human form at the drop of the hat. Saboteurs, spies, sleeper agents slipping into the populate, shifting back to wreak untold havoc. No. He wouldn't allow it. He could not allow it. Atlas must find him first. After all, if the worst was true, so too was the best. Someone knocked on his door. He turned to face them. Enter. Clover swept inside, sealing it behind him. You wanted to see me, sir? At ease. He waved the man down when he tried to salute. I trust you heard all of that. Here at last the specialist stopped smiling. I did, sir. He looked away and shook his head. It sounds almost too good to be true. You said he was last sighted in Vale? I trust Ojban, if not his judgment, James replied. I'm sending you and the rest of the Aesops to secure this individual and extract him to Atlas. Under no circumstances are you to attack him. When his subordinate didn't speak, he barreled onward. You'll be going off the grid. No one must know of this operation. If you're caught. With all due respect, sir, I understand the risks. Clover coughed into a fist, but from what I've heard, he won't take kindly to an armed squad. Might be best to send few rather than many. Who did you have in mind? He steeped his fingers and laid his chin atop them. Whomever they were, they need to stand on their own, never mind defending themselves. They need to be calm under pressure. The faintest grimace touched his clean-shaven face. Not Agent Bree, then. Her temper was known. Vine was the sort to follow orders to the exclusion of all else. He would have liked nothing more than to send Clover himself, but he was needed here. That left. Clover smiled, sensing his thoughts. Elm and Marrow have begging for a little shore leave. What manner of man crawls into his own grave in search of hope? Some might say a desperate one. Right now, Naruto was feeling mighty desperate. Mountain Glen was a ruin, a corpse picked clean of valuables long ago. Just as well, because Naruto had no desire to resurrect it. Nothing short of an army would be able to rebuild this place. He pitied the fool who tried. But that worked in their favor. No one would think to look for him here. Only the foolish or the greedy came to such a place. In hindsight, perhaps he was a bit of the former. Now if only someone would stop shouting before they brought it down on their heads. Are you kidding me? Naruto and Alpha winced at Lisa's shout. Her startled yelp pierced the dead city, echoing on for miles. This is your idea of a safe place? Lisa rounded on him with wild eyes. It's chock full of MMPH? Shh, Naruto pulled his finger from her lips as they slipped out of the shadows. Keep your voice down. Grimm don't mind me, and they probably won't care about Alpha, but they'll come howling if they get a whiff of your negativity. He sniffed once. And right now? You reek of it. Alpha scented the air once and frowned. She really does. Meep. Lisa's hands flew to her mouth. I'm sorry. Her words were a whisper. I'll be good. Naruto couldn't help but chuckle at that. Meep indeed. She was starting to grow on him. Like a fungus. This latest bout of paranoia aside, he was sure she'd be fine once she had time to acclimate. They didn't need to stay here for long, and he didn't intend to. Just enough to recover, let the heat die down before they ventured out once more. He'd been here with Merlot when the city was in its prime. Before the incident. Before their good intentions claimed so many lives. All right, happy thoughts. He heard Lisa mutter behind him in the street. Positivity. Kittens. Puppies. Breaking news. Slaughtering the weak and unworthy? Alpha offered her own equivalent as they dodged down an alleyway. Lisa warbled. I wouldn't consider that a positive emotion. I would. High above them, the mountain rumbled. It was a low, ponderous sound akin to a giant stirring in its sleep. The trio looked up as one. Naruto gave the girls a bleak look. What the hell was that? I'm sorry, Lisa wailed. I'm a journalist, for crying out loud. Negativity is in my blood. A wolf howled in the distance. It was too much to hope for a normal one. Before long the first howl was taken up by another. And another now. Another still. Another. Naruto hung his head, praying to whatever god he could think of, hoping they were attracted by something else. Someone else. Anything that wasn't them. It wasn't to be. Before long he felt the ground shake underfoot. He tried to conceal his presence. Tried to close himself off from the Grimm and hide. He really, truly did. He took hold of the metaphorical door in his mind and slammed it shut, throwing the weight of his soul against it. A strange weightlessness settled over. Inhale. Exhale. He was at peace. He was calm. Something sensed him and wrenched it back open, shattering his control. The channel of his mind snapped open and hundreds of red eyes opened in the dark. No! A shout tore from him. Naruto looked up just in time to see a tide of black and white death rounded a bend to the south some blocks down. So many. Too many. Ursi, Beowulfs, Deathstalkers, and other ghastly breeds he'd not seen before. Visible even here from here, it mowed down the ruins in its path. He could see clawed paws reach for him, paws that would mow Alpha and Lisa down in an instant. Move! He pivoted quickly, only to find another such wave approaching from the east. From the west. The north, now. There was nowhere to go. Alpha gnashed her teeth. We're surrounded. Here at last, Lisa faltered. No, no, no! Not like this. I don't want to die. Naruto took her by the face and forced her gaze away from the chaos. She struggled in his grasp, to no avail. Look at me. He spoke slowly, modulating his voice to what he hoped was a pleasant hum. Calm down, or we're both dead. I can't. Frantic eyes flitted away from his, toward the rapidly approaching tide of death. I thought you said you could control them. Do something. And what was he supposed to do? Trying to corral this many Grimm at once would only knock him out. Then where would they be? Even now their thoughts and emotions pressed down on his mind like a physical force, threatening to drown his very sense of self. It was a struggle just to stay afloat. He raised his gaze, suddenly realizing the quake had stopped. His heart skipped a beat when he saw the sea of masked faces staring back him. They were well and truly surrounded now, hemmed in a rough semicircle by the horde. And yet for all that, they hadn't closed the circle, all their attention was fixed on him. No, he realized. Not just him, but Alpha as well. Their presence baffled them, confused them, slowed them. Maybe there was a chance. If he was quick and careful. We're just passing through. He flung his words and will out like a net, wincing as a migraine exploded behind his temples. Friendly. Friends. Some of them slouched. He dared to hope. And the mountain erupted. Bugger. Naruto flung up an arm to shield his face, but it was too late. Molten debris rained down from on high, crushing Grimm far and wide. Alpha flicked a hand in a lazy swat and batted one such chunk away from them before it could render them a messy smear upon the street. Still more fell, deadly shards of rocks striking near and far. He dared to hope that would be the end of it. Until something descended from the pitted corpse of the mountain. The sheer force of its landing made everything lurch, battering the remaining Grimm aside. Naruto looked up. Up. Up some more. Lisa whimpered. Oh. Naruto rasped, feeling his throat close. You're a big girl, ain't ya? The beast was massive, easily thrice the size of the sea Phylong he'd encountered. All black and white, limbed with pulsing red veins, it was quite possibly the largest Grimm he'd ever seen. Mighty wings unfurled from its broad back and stretched toward the sky, blotting out the moon. He realized what it was a moment later. He'd read of such a creature in Merlot's books, but he'd never seen one up close, nor did he ever have any desire to. A lone word escaped numb lips as he gazed upon death itself and knew its name. Wyvern. With a triumphant cry, the dragon threw its head back and howled at the heavens. A gout of wild blue flame burst from its jaws, bathing the night in azure light, casting twisting showers against the ruined buildings as it cried unto the skies. Its wings beat once, not in flight, but a simple stretch, even then it nearly sent them stumbling. A swathe emotions hit Naruto a moment later. Freedom! It had been contained for so long, trapped by forces outside of its control, sealed by a man with a scepter. Every thought was disjointed, fragmented, mere pierces of a greater whole. They were shards of glass under his skin, stabbing, poking, prodding, merely standing in its presence threatened to knock him out. Lisa groaned. We're dead. Then it saw them. The wyvern moved frightfully fast for something so large. Massive jaws parted as it lowered its head to regard them, revealing teeth as long as he was tall. Naruto felt it inhale and braced himself, planting his feet against what he knew was to come. A wash of fetid breath hit him a moment later, blasting his hair and cloak black. Alpha hid behind him. Do something. Here goes nothing. He knew better than to clash wills with such as this. And yet for all that, he felt stronger than before. Not strong enough to win in a contest of wills, but better than before. Why? He wondered why. Had converting Alpha to human form strengthened his gift? Did it correlate to the number of Grimm under his command? Why? Too many questions, not enough answers. Easy now. He raised a hand. Golden sparks trailed across it. We're not your enemies. The wyvern trilled softly. You were trapped under that rock for an awfully long time, weren't you? He cooed at it. Who put you there? That frightfully large head swept froth to regard him, close enough to touch. It didn't answer him, but he felt something from it all the same. Hungry. Could a Grimm feel hunger? He didn't know. Tell you what. He gulped. Maybe you don't eat us, and I'll find you some tasty treats, eh? Humans have all sorts of delicious foods. The wyvern snorted, nearly ripping him from his feet. A headache stabbed at him then, bringing with it a snatch of memory. Not his. It belonged to someone else. Weak. You can't help anyone. You can't save anyone. Who decided that? He pushed past it. All the pain, all the hate, all the hunger. It clawed at him, trying to drag him down, but he slipped through. Not to attack, but to nudge. Firm fingers brushed its snout. He winced, half expecting it to bite down, and knowing there was nothing he could do about it, but the pain never came. All he felt was a deep and pressing need from this creature. So hungry. I'll feed you whatever you want. He beamed up at the beast. Promise. Just don't eat us, alright? Its eyes closed as he felt its mind brush his. Hungry. I swear. His throat closed a little. You'll never go hungry again. Light. Golden sparks scrawled across the wyvern's hide as its massive bulk folded inward in a rush of scalding steam. The beast didn't so much break as it did explode from within. The sheer force flattened the remaining Grimm like dominoes, battering them aside. This time Naruto was prepared for what he found within, if only just. He flung up an arm, squinting into his haze, and blonde looked down. She looked up. Her body was that of a normal teenage girl, her complexion fair, but any humanity she might have held was overwhelmed by her more draconic features. Her emerald eyes bore red pupils, and she was blessed with long flowing pink hair, a pair of pink horns matching equally pink scales covering her forelimbs and other areas. Thank the gods for small mercies. And really, was with the color pink? Idly, a part of him noted her distinct lack of silver eyes. Well, that threw his theory right out the window. He swallowed once, regarding her warily, half expecting a feral outburst as he had with Alpha. And who are you? Rim. Her voice was surprisingly soft as she looked to him with wide eyes. I'm hungry. Naruto's jaw clicked open with an audible pop. Lisa's jaw joined it. The little girl blinked up at them. You said you'd feed me? Alpha coughed into a fist, refusing to speak. Naruto blinked. Once. Twice. Thrice. Lisa absolutely squealed. She's adorable. They couldn't linger in Mountain Glen much longer. Tempting though the notion might be, Naruto knew it simply wasn't feasible to hide here indefinitely. Not only was the dead city an obvious place for Ojban to search, and he would, but anyone who did find them lurking here would doubtlessly think the worst of him. Alpha and Rim might not care, but any human or faunus would probably attack him on sight. Besides, Lisa was going stir-crazy here. Poor girl was losing her mind. Or perhaps she already had. A faint smile touched his face at the thought. Anyone willing to follow a living Grimm magnet through hell and back must have a few screws loose. Then again, he supposed they were all mad here. It wasn't as if he could just waltz into Vale. By now there were surely warrants out for his arrest. He'd be set upon the second he set foot in the city. Conversely, he couldn't just let Lisa waltz into Vale without protection. She'd never make it back to Vale alone. There were miles upon miles of Grimm-infested wilderness between here and Vale. Which left him at a bit of an impasse. What do you think, buddy? He cast a weather blue eye down at his current companion. Think it's time for us to move on? The Ursa Major chuffed once, but made no effort to lift its head from where it lay in his lap. Heh. The blonde chortled. Fair enough. It was a prime specimen even among its kind, a mighty bitch of a beast larger than he was tall, bearing powerful paws and mighty jaws. Tainted white spires jutted from its spine akin to those of a hedgehog, promising pain to anyone fool enough to leap onto its back. He still didn't know why it had come to him, much less cornered him in the first place. He supposed it was possible that the bear thought he was one of its cubs. Perhaps it sensed his distress. Maybe it was simply curious. Who could say? Unfortunately, its presence created another problem for him. You're not gonna let me up, are ya? Lazy red eyes flicked up to his palm, still laid atop its masked skull. It made another noise, rather reminiscent of a low whine. Come on now. Naruto sighed, but the sound lacked rancor. Don't complain. I've been sitting here for an hour now. My legs are falling asleep, you know. It chuffed once, radiating satisfaction and stubbornness. It wasn't letting him up without a fight. Seemed he didn't have much choice in the matter. Forget his ability to tame the Grimm, it seemed a bit of peace and a few head pats did the trick all the same. caper poked its little head out of his shoulder. Its mask prevented any such display of emotion, but he suspected the little Geist wasn't much pleased with him. All right. He touched its small skull with a finger. I'll do the same for you. But don't tell Alpha. A pause now, as he considered the matter further. Or Rim. Pretty sure she wouldn't take kindly to food. Speak of the devil and she shall appear. Naruto grunted a little as sharp teeth sank into the meat of his shoulder. His Ursa didn't so much as bat an eyelash. Rim was ruler here. All Grimm in this city were subordinate to her. It still did nothing to change the fact that she was currently chewing on him like a candy bar. Rim. MMMPH? She blinked up at him, mouth muffled against his flesh. Was it? Sometimes he wondered if the gods were laughing at him. It certainly felt like it. Why are you trying to eat me? Still hungry. She gnawed on him a bit more before relinquishing her hold. But Alpha said looked sad. Her grin was filled with teeth. So I wanted to cheer you up. A thorn of alarm pricked at his heart. And where is she? Hunting? The grimmified girl whistled innocently. Blue eyes narrowed to azure slits. Rim. I'm gonna hunt too. I'll bring you back a deer. No. 3. I won't lose to her. Naruto tried to grab at her as she danced back. Wait, how are you going to huely crap? His words trailed off as her body suddenly shifted in towering shadow, leaving him to gape as the dragon hurtled away. So she can change back if she wants. He muttered to himself. Of course she can. Because I totally needed a pet dragon. Still, maybe she had the right of things. Best just to focus on the here and now. The future could be dealt with later. Planting a boot on a bit of crumbling masonry, he levered himself upright and bit back a sigh. There were too many ghosts here for his liking, a constant reminder of the spectacular failure he and Merlot had wrought. Even now it nagged at him like an old wound, not quite healed. Back then, the experiment had been going so well. The Grimm were placid at the time. Docile. Until something stirred them up. Now the rest was, as they say, history. Mountain Glen had fallen. Hundreds were dead. Merlot was gone and he'd recently become a fugitive, running from one of the most powerful men in Remnant. There was a Queen of the Grimm, one who ruled and he knew next to nothing about her. Was this Salem person to blame for Mountain Glen? It was so tempting to cast the burden of guilt at her feet, even if he knew he shouldn't. This was already his teacher's tomb. It would not become his. Well, he muttered, nothing to be gained by moping about. Come on. With one hand he patted the Ursa that had taken a liking to him. Let's find Lisa and maybe something to drink. Summer was hearing the voices again. They haunted her each waking moment, whispered in her sleep, tormented her at every turn. What had begun was little more than whispers in Naruto's absence had soon escalated, until it was all she could do to drown them out. They clawed at her like the paws of some fell beast, threatening to drag her down if she slipped. A single command, one that burned in the back of her brain in a searing brand. Take the girl. The chant filled her mind. Take the girl. Take the girl. No. She scowled at her reflection in the mirror. I'm still me. Her reflection smiled right back. Are you? Summer smashed a fist into the glass. It shattered with a laugh. Found some booze. The gods, Lisa considered, were good. Really? The journalist looked up, frazzled hair peeking over the bar counter from where she'd sprawled herself in a dilapidated apartment. Is it still good? Maybe? Naruto considered the green glass bottle and shrugged as his companion regarded the rosy red liquid within. No idea. It's one of the only intact bottles I could find. His other hand swept out, spinning a pair of relatively intact glasses towards her. She caught one nimbly, white-knuckled in her grasp, only to realize his expression had gone pensive. I'll understand you don't want any. Hello, no. After everything we've been through? Crack that baby open. Naruto hesitated all of a moment. Well, are you sure? She all but ripped it from his grasp. Gimme! In short order they propped a pair of seats up and done just that. Lisa filled her glass to the brim and knocked him. Come on, we deserve to celebrate. On a whim, he decided to humor her. What's the occasion? We're alive. What occasion do we need? She pursed her lips, considering the matter for a moment. Where are the girls? They usually stick to you like glue. Alpha went out on patrol, something about finding a new pack. As for Rim? His lips pursed as a distant roar sounded. Pretty sure she went hunting. She looked past him, to the shadow lurking outside. And that bear's still following you around? Yeah, Naruto followed her gaze. Don't really know what to do with it. I'll figure it out. Meh, fair enough. She grinned. Drink then. To the Golden Grimm. It was an odd toast, but for some reason, Naruto didn't deny her. Ajban seldom felt the need for violence these days. He liked to think himself above such base instincts. But now, was not such a time. You let him walk into Mountain Glen. He considered the call he just received, was currently receiving, and considered crushing the receiver in his fist. A place teeming with Grimm. What did you think would happen? We're terribly sorry, sir. The captain of Vale's guard apologized profusely, voice crackling through the other end of the line. We'll send a detachment. No, don't bother. He waved a hand, pinching the bridge of his nose with the other. If I know him, he'll be too much for you. He stood and snatched up his cane. This is a job for Huntsman. More aptly, a job for him. How much had they drunk? Naruto no longer remembered. But that bottle was looking a fair bit emptier than before, and an almost pleasant buzz had begun to overtake his senses. He couldn't manage much more than that these days. Somehow his body burned off liquor before he could truly get drunk. Yet more proof he wasn't entirely human. You're mad. Lisa wasn't faring so well. Her face was flushed as she guffawed openly. Peace between people and the Grimm? Is that even possible? Of course they'd started talking. It was inevitable. They once said the same about the four cities. Yet they worked out. And is it mad to reach for new heights? To long for something more? Something better? The passion of his goal took him by the teeth. That's what I aspire to. He leaned forward, capturing her gaze with his. What I strive for. What I crave. A better world. True peace. Understanding, if not necessarily between us and the Grimm, then at least coexistence. He pursed his lips as the next word eluded him. Surely there's nothing wrong with that. Not saying there is. Lisa swirled her wine in her glass, watching it sway intently. But people won't see it that way. Then screw 'em. Sometimes you have to rock the boat a bit to make them understand. Even if they hate me, I won't stop. His hands clenched into fists atop the table. I will persevere. I must. And why is that? He dared a smile. If I don't do this, then who will? Lisa regarded him for a long moment. What? He frowned at her. I think Maida woulda liked you. Naruto frowned. You never did tell me who your father was. Lisa looked up from her mug, cheeks flushed. I got my last name from my mother. My pa's name. Well, she looked away, tried to whistle, and failed in her inebriated state. Shit. A curse escaped her. Guess there's no point in hiding it. Not if we're gonna be working together. Well, that wasn't ominous at all. His eyes narrowed. Well? Don't keep me in suspense. Out with it. Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you. Her shoulder slumped. He was a real wacko. Suppose I got my curiosity from him. Something stilled in Naruto's soul, turning cold and dark. No. His tongue betrayed him. Is that so? No, no. Yeah, you're gonna laugh. She grimaced. His name's weird. No, no, no. Lisa heard none of it. Merlot, she said at last. His name was Merlot. You gotta be kidding. Naruto crashed back with a guffaw. His seat failed him in that instant. One of the legs broke and he fell atop it, all but dragging himself down. Lisa leaned after him to laugh at his plight. Karma was swift. Tipsy as she was, she lost her balance almost immediately and toppled with a shriek. Her body crashed down atop his. Naruto stiffened. Such a silly man? Lisa patted his cheek. Something flashed in her eyes. Handsome, too. She leaned in. Her lips were warm against his chest. Naruto bit his lip to try and stifle a smile. He failed spectacularly. It was just too much. My face is up here. Ah. She slurred, squinting up at him. No far. Shriya views. He'd never given much thought to romance before, if only because he simply hadn't the time. Summer was happily married and with children to boot. He'd given the ex-huntress her life back, one she was fit to live to her heart's content. Or so he hoped. On the matter of such freedom, he wasn't above to force himself on the Grimm girls he'd inadvertently freed. Lisa was Lisa. And also very drunk. He might be seen as a monster by many, but that didn't make him one. Far from it. With a long-suffering sigh, he rose, pulling her upright. Lisa followed him. Bed? For you, maybe? No. As he looked on, she threw a fit, crossing her arms and huffing as a petulant child might. Not sleepy. Don't wanna. The ghost of a smile graced his lips. Sorry, not asking. Up you go! Quick as a flash, he dipped down and swept her up into his arms. Well, he should have seen that coming. With her head now all but cradled against his chest, Lisa's drunken stupor evaporated into a gaggle of giggles. Near delirious in her glee, she clung onto him for dear life. Princess Carrie, she sang out. I always wanted to be held like this, but no very one said I was too boyish. Ha! She kicked her legs in the air, nearly sending them sprawling once more. Look who's laughing now. I ain't no Tamba. Naruto experienced a sudden premonition of dread. Don't you dare! Do these look boyish to you? Somehow she managed to get an arm free. By the time he realized what she intended, it was too late. Fabric ripped. Buttons flew through the air and sprayed across his face, peppering whiskered cheeks. A flash of deep indigo graced his eyes, accompanied by the cream expanse of pale skin. See? She cupped her breasts, fondling them. Perfectly reasonable size. A saucy smile touched her lips. I'm not flat. Naruto most certainly did not want to see. But the sight had been engraved upon his mind. They really were quite nice. Right. He choked out. We'll talk about this later. When you're sober. She sniffled. Promise? Yeah. He kissed her forehead. Sweet dreams. Ginger steps brought him to her cot. He needn't have worried. Lisa didn't rest. In short order he laid her within and tucked in against a bundle of blankets. Before long, the faint telltale sound of snoring reached his ears. From there he took one step back. Then another. Followed by a third. Still she made no move to rise. Naruto heaved out a breath. Finally. A howl rent the air. Followed by dozens more. He jolted to his feet. What in blazes? It was not the hunters of Vale that had come for him. Honestly, Naruto would have preferred it thus. Pulling out into the ruined courtyard, he recognized the telltale white and blue of Atlas warriors even from a distance. Strange, then, that there were only 2 of them. Most huntsman teams were known to operate in 4-person cells. He noticed of the faunus first, if only because it was impossible not to. Stay! They stood at the forefront of the horde, weapon drawn in one hand while the other thrust a finger forward. Before that singular command, none of the Grimm budged. He could see them straining against some unseen force, all but chomping at the bit. Sweat slicked down the man's brow, his arm quivering with the effort to hold them in place. What in the world? Ultimately, it was his companion that caught the eye. She was certainly well fit. While the poor faunus looked fit to sole his trousers, her smile wavered. Not once. He took her in at a glance. This tall young muscular woman, her brown hair wrapped in a short ponytail, dark of skin and bright of eyes, they reminded him of milk chocolate much like her companion. She too wore an Elysian specialist uniform, although hers consisted primarily of an open white, one-sleeved crop jacket bearing dark blue accents, shoulder flaps and collar flung over a dark gray shirt. Silver vambraces sheathed her forearms, contrasting a deeper red belt wrapped around her white pants. Oddly enough, she hadn't any shoes to speak of, save for some bandages wrapping her feet. A silver hoop glinted merrily on her right ear. All in all, looked like she could easily bench press an Ursa or 3, and win handily. The hammer held lazily in her offhand only further hinted at her strength. She saw him then, or perhaps she'd seen him all along and simply held her tongue until this moment. Hello? The newcomer waved cheerily. Mind calling off your beasties? We come in peace. Aren't you afraid? Terrified, really? A faint warble rose. I'd really rather not die, and Meru can't hold them much longer. As he looked on, a bead of sweat ran down her brow. Little help here? You need to calm down, he hissed out. They're reacting to your stress. Just breathe. The woman grimaced. I really hope the rumors were right about you. He could have answered them in any number of ways. A retort maybe, or a long-winded speech perhaps. But the proof, as they say, is in the pudding. Seeing is believing and all that. So he gave them reason to believe. Casting out with his gift, he began prodding the Grimm around them, urging them to calm. It was impossible to truly control so many minds at once, let alone change them, but nudging them was another matter. It was the work of several minutes, but he succeeded. In hindsight, he'd soon wish he hadn't. The very moment he did, the woman stepped forward, clasped him by the shoulders, and drew him into a crushing hug. His face landed right in her bosom. Heat surged through his face, turning his whiskered cheeks a bright rosy red. Woo? I'm Elm. She set him down with a grin. We've come to bargain. Meru palmed his face. Don't mind her. She has absolutely no tact. Piss on that, she scoffed. Long story short, Atlas is willing to offer you sanctuary. What do you say? Naruto pinched the brow of his nose. Of course you are. What's next? You got hidden cameras on you or something? Ironwood watched the footage intently from his command post. A small smile touched his lined face. Remarkable. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comment section how was the story. And also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.